Welcome back. Ooh, echo. Welcome back, Crime Spies. Today is day 8 of the Karen Read trial. I hope that you had a good day. I hardly got any sleep last night. I'm having some struggles with my sleep, but I was able to run this through another edition of Bare Justice, where we take the trial footage of the day and we strip it down to just the bare bones. So let's begin. These are both uploaded on my YouTube channel. It takes so long to process these, and because I'm kind of monkeying around with the speed, I'm not putting really an intro or an outro on them. It's just like the thumbnail and then the raw footage. So I really didn't get a chance to listen to this today because I had my MacBook recording the Julie Albert testimony, and I had this computer working on this guy, and then I used CapCut on that one and CapCut on this one. But because it takes so long, it was just faster that way. So if you want to listen to this or watch this testimony from today, it was only a half day in court. And it's just Christopher Albert here and his wife Julie are the only two people that testified. So if you want to watch this without my commentary, feel free. If you're at the YouTube side, they are uploaded on the playlist. Actually, that's where I'm drawing the footage from. So without explaining all of my troubles I'm having, this is a really great idea, and I'm getting better with each person that testifies. Like yesterday, I uploaded them all as separate. And again, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put all the witness testimonies separate and then upload them, because then they'll get up, as quickly as they can. And what else was I going to mention? Oh, but like yesterday, the first guy that I did, between him and then the woman that testified last, there were 7 witnesses yesterday on day 7. I got a lot better at it. So, so we'll see how this goes. I appreciate your feedback. If it's negative feedback, please be kind about what you have to say. And for those of you on Rumble, when we did the live stream of day 6, I had quite a really good response on it over there. For those of you on the Rumble side, thank you so much for joining me. I had a wonderful, beautiful Rumble channel that I worked over a year to build up. And then Laptop from Hell got my channel banned forever without any type of, appeal process or anything. So I'm really angry with those Rumble people, but I got to build my channel back, so I appreciate you. All right, let's begin. There's a couple other things I want to mention. I think I got the edits down pretty good. I mean, I could edit until, next week, because Lally has a few things he says and now, so like cutting that stuff out. This guy here liked to say like a lot, so I took most of those out. So I don't know if I'm doing like too much editing. Maybe I just need to take out the pauses. And the other thing I have to figure out is when they do show video, there's really no easy way to do it. Like, again, I mean, the point of this is to get the testimony put up on the YouTube world and Rumble and Kick and Twitch and all the places that we're at, and have it be efficient way to watch it. Like, for example, today, I don't know if it was like 3 or 4 hours maybe, and I got it down to like an hour and a half. So I'm kind of monkeying with the speed. The problem is, like I said, though, the videos, when they do play videos during the testimony, if nobody's talking, it does kind of cut them up a little bit. So we might have to work on that, or post the videos separately. I don't know. Your feedback is appreciated.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
It's Christopher Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
I live at 22 Maple Street, Unit L, Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived there?
Almost 2 years,
How long have you lived in Canton?
since 1974.
So pretty much your whole.
Pretty much since I was 4.
Prior to living in Maple, where did you live in Canton?
7 Meadows in Canton.
How long did you live in Seven?
From 2001 to 2021, about 20 years.
Anyone do you live with now?
I live with my wife, Julie, my oldest son, who just came home from the Navy, my middle son, Colin, and my youngest son, Dylan.
How long have you and your wife lived?
Roughly, gosh, she's gonna kill me. Around 21 years.
You mentioned that you and your wife Julie have 3 sons.
Yep.
How old?
My oldest is 25, my middle is 20, and my youngest is 16.
Do you work, sir?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm self-employed. I own a small pizza shop.
What's the name of the pizza?
It's called D&E Pizza.
How long have you done that?
25 years this
7,
March.
11.
Prior to that, did you work in the same industry?
Same industry pretty much my whole life.
Does your wife work?
She does not.
Does she help out with the D&E?
She does some of this behind the scenes stuff. Yes.
When you lived on Meadows Avenue, did you have occasion to become familiar with someone named John?
Yes, I did.
How was it that you knew John?
So he bought the One Meadows Ave house. I don't know exactly, maybe. So he became my neighbor. I guess just from me driving by his house and coming home, I saw him, would wave to him and stuff. That's how I initially became to know who John was.
You mentioned he bought the house at the top of the street, is that correct?
Yeah, it's the very, if you're coming off Pleasant, you take a right down Meadows. It's the first on the right.
On Meadows, about how many,
Between us or on the whole street, you mean?
first down the whole street and then?
Yeah, roughly on that whole street, I would say there's close to 30 houses from top to bottom on both sides.
How about in between 1 and 7?
So there's two houses between mine and John's.
And your house is both odd numbers on.
Same side, yeah.
You said that's how you initially came to know John O'Keefe. How did your relationship?
Over the years, he was friendly with some other folks that I was friends with. So we maybe be occasionally and bump into him, but he would also come to my pizza shop a lot. He would take his nephew, Patrick, in my pizza shop a lot. So it was not uncommon for him to stop by a couple days a week. Usually just grab a slice.
You grew up in Canton, correct?
Yes, I do. I have 6.
What are the names of your 6 sisters?
So my oldest is my older brother, Brian. I have a sister, Kathleen. I have she's older than me. And I'm next in line. And then I have a brother, Kevin, then a brother, Keith, Brendan, and Timmy.
Where is it that you fit in that sort of?
I'm the 3rd oldest.
Now, your older brother, Brian, what does he do for?
He's a Boston police officer, or he was. He's recently retired.
And your brother, Kevin, what is he?
He's a Canton police officer.
And John O'Keefe, were you familiar with what he did?
Yes. Yeah, I knew he was a Boston police officer as well.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to January 2020, do you recall that day?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what day of the week that was?
It's a Friday, I believe.
Were you working at the D&E Pizza Shop on that day?
I was.
At some point in time in the afternoon, who, if anyone of note, came into?
John came in that day with his nephew, Patrick.
Do you recall, what did they get that day?
They just got 2 slices of pizza, if I recall correctly.
Oh my God, I'm so
What, if any,
hungry.
conversation did you have with Mr. O'Keefe as far as?
So he asked me if I had any plans that night. I said, unfortunately, it's Friday and I'm working pretty much till close. I said, but it's my nephew's birthday and I know a bunch of people are heading out and I was planning on meeting up with them later when I got out of work. So I think I said to him, I'll shoot you a text later. If you're around, maybe we can hook up.
In that sense, sort of, how would you describe your relationship with?
Oh, it was a good relationship. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself frank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pushing forward on January 28th, about what time was it if you know that you closed up?
So the shop stays open until 10. I know that I left sometime a little bit before 10. I had my wife drop me off some clothes it was a ritual because those nights are tough for me to get out early and go home. So she dropped me off some clothes and I remember just changing quick, washing up a little bit and then leaving. So I think I left before the store actually closed a few minutes.
Now, during the time or prior to you leaving the pizza shop, what, if any, conversation via text?
He asked where I was. I said I was still working. He said something like, why don't you talk to the boss, see if you can get out of there. I just said, I'm married to this place. It's tough. I'll text you when I leave. Then I shot him a text, I think, when I got down to Waterfall, and I said, where are you? Go ahead.
And where did he say that you were?
He was at CF McCarthy's.
Are you familiar with both of those establishments as far as CF McCarthy's?
Yes, I am.
With regard to your pizza shop, where is McCarthy's in relation to that and where is Waterfall?
So if I was sitting at my front door looking out, CF McCarthy's would be to my right, and Waterfall would be down the street, diagonal, maybe 200 yards on the opposite side of the street.
So both walking distance from where you're?
Yeah.
Your home on Maple, where is that in those businesses on Waterfall?
Maple Street is probably from my pizza shop is maybe like a 5-minute walk. It's not far, and a little closer to Waterfall. Maybe it's a 7-minute walk from Dean, like a 5-minute walk from Waterfall.
Are there any in the area where you live? Is there any?
Yes, I live behind the library. You take a left on Maple, and the library is 2 buildings after me on the left-hand side, and the town hall is a little further down on the right.
The library that's around the library.
That's besides what's inside schools, yeah, that's the only public library.
So again, I'm sorry, what time is it that you leave D&E to go?
Just before 10, maybe like 9:50-ish.
As far as meeting up with people, who is it that directs you to go to Waterfall?
I think my wife said, "Are you coming down? Are you there?" She was down there, so I had a conversation with her. I think that's how I headed down there.
You went there to meet?
Yeah, she was down there.
You've been to the Waterfall before?
Yes.
So when you walked into the Waterfall, where did you go as far as, who, if anyone, did you recognize?
So it's pretty much when you walk in, it's just open. My wife was there. Matt was there. Matt McCabe was there. Jen McCabe was there. My sister-in-law, Nicole, was there. My niece, Caitlin, was there. I think when I first walked in, that's who was there.
You mentioned Jennifer and Matthew McCabe, is that right?
Yeah.
How do you know them?
Oh, I didn't grow up with Jen. She's younger than me, but she's lived in Canton for a long time. My brother Brian is married to her sister, Nicole. So I've known her pretty much my whole life.
You were testifying earlier about some of the people that you and Mr. O'Keefe and you and Mrs. McCabe, you one of those people.
Yes, yeah.
When you walk in relative to the establishment, whereabouts were those situated?
So they were on a table that was close to the bar. It's set up. They have 3 tables in a row. I think we were maybe either in the middle or the next table to the bar.
Those 3 sort of tables together, if you know about how long a table are we talking about?
Let's say they're about a 6-foot table.
And it was a low top, high top, or something?
It's a high top.
And located close to the bar, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, do you recall from that evening as far as entertainment?
There was a live band that was playing.
About how close to your table was the live band? Fair to say, pretty loud in there. When you walk in, where do you go in reference to sort of the other?
Right over to the table, and I think I said hello to them, sat down.
And what, if anything, did you order when you?
Ordered a beer.
Did you eat while you were there as well? Throughout the course of the evening, what is it? You're at bars, so you're drinking, correct?
Sure.
What were you drinking?
Miller Lite.
And is that sort of normally what you would drink when you go out?
Yeah.
You mentioned that initially when you get there, it's yourself, brother Brian, his wife, and your niece, Caitlin. Is that correct?
No, my brother Brian wasn't there yet. Yeah, it was Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, my wife, Caitlin, and Nicole.
Thank you for correcting.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry.
At some point shortly after that, or at some points, who, if anyone else, arrives and joins your table?
My brother Brian and a gentleman named Brian Higgins, they came and joined us.
Is Brian Higgins, is that someone that you had met previously?
Yeah, a few times.
How did you know him?
I don't know how I initially met him, but probably seen him around. I knew that he worked as an ATF agent. I knew that he worked inside the Canton Police Department, so I think I knew him from that, just being around.
So you knew him through your brothers, either Brian or Kevin?
Yeah, that's the only way I met him.
How long after you arrived was it that?
Oh, it's probably within 35 minutes, roughly.
What, if anything, did you know about where they had been prior to it or what they had been doing earlier?
So they were in New York at a police officer's funeral. They went there for the ceremony. A snowstorm was coming, so they decided that they were going to drive back early to beat the storm.
You mentioned as far as going out on that particular evening, what was that in reference?
So my nephew, Brian, it was his birthday.
So when you say your nephew, Brian, whose son is that?
So that's my older brother, Brian's son, Brian.
So
Brian Jr., yeah, we call him Brian Jr.
was he present at the waterfall that night?
He wasn't, no. He decided that he didn't want to go out.
When your older brother Brian and Mr. Higgins come in, where is it?
So they walk in and they come directly over to the table.
At some point later in the evening, who, if anyone else, also joins your group?
John O'Keefe came with Karen Read.
How did you know Karen Read?
I met her a couple times. She also had been in the pizza shop a couple times. Driving by the street when I would come home, she would be outside One Meadows.
Just to be clear, when we're speaking about Miss Read, do you see her in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
You just identify as to where she is.
She's sitting right over there between the 2 attorneys.
That's a record reflect identification. Prior to Mr. O'Keefe coming into the waterfall, you mentioned some text communications with him, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if any, other communications did you have with Mr. O'Keefe before you?
I don't think nothing before I got to the waterfall.
Not before you got to the waterfall, before Mr. O'Keefe got to the waterfall.
With Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Just that where was he? Where were we going? Where was he going to be?
What, if any, communications do you recall in regards to who was there or who was going to be?
Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think at some point he said, "Who's there?" I said, "My brother Brian." I said, "Brian." And he said, "Your brother Brian?" I said, "Yeah, Brian and Brian Higgins are there." He said, "Where's your brother Kevin?" I said, I have no clue, LOL or something.
When Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed come into the bar, where is it they go?
They walked directly in, came towards our table, just to strike up conversation. I think John came over to my wife and said hello to her first, maybe. Just got with the group, started talking.
Fair to say Ms. O'Keefe knew your wife, Julie, as well?
Yes,
How would you describe their relationship?
good relationship.
When Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant come over to the area where you and your wife is, what thing did you observe?
When they came over, I think they started talking. At one point, when they first came over, the defendant came in with the glass underneath her jacket. I thought that was funny, and I laughed about it and made a comment about it.
What, if anything, did you notice about the glass?
It was just a tall cylinder glass with some clear liquid in it and a lime.
That was under a coat when she came in.
Yeah, it was like she pulled it out.
If you know about what time was it that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came in?
I got there close to 10, I would say 10:45-ish, to the best of my recollection.
And following sort of the blows and all that kind of stuff, as far as after they first came in, where did they go?
I think the defendant sat down, and I think well, John went to the bar and got a beer.
Is that sort of what John would?
Yeah, Bud Light, I think.
And you mentioned that the defendant sat down. Where does she sit down in relation to you and your wife?
I think right not next to my wife.
With regard to just how would you describe the general sort of tone or demeanor within the group at the waterfall?
It was fine. Everyone's just having a good time.
No arguments,
No, not at all.
specifically between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant. What, if anything,
I didn't notice anything abnormal.
if you recall, what was Mr. wearing on that?
Blue jeans, baseball hat, and like a pullover light sweatshirt type of grayish garment. I don't know what you would call it. It wasn't like a hoodie. It wasn't. It's like a long sleeve shirt.
Is that what he was wearing when he walked in?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you see him with a jacket or anything like that?
No.
As far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did you observe about that clothing as far as hair and of it at all?
No, I didn't notice anything. It looked fine to me.
As far as Mr. O'Keefe's person himself, what, if anything, did you observe as far as any injuries or anything like that?
Didn't see anything. Looked normal.
After Mr. O'Keefe went to the bar and got a beer, do you know where he went from there?
Just came back over to the table, started chatting people up.
When you say the table, was that sort of your area or was there a different?
No, the same table, the same high top. Some people sitting, some people standing.
As far as this length described, about feet or so of that, if you recall, where were people waited around?
I was sitting at one point because I was eating, so I was sitting in a seat. My wife was sitting in another seat. Matt and Jen was sitting in another seat. I recall John standing a lot. I don't think he sat at all. I think Karen was sitting at one point, probably situated near, maybe across from my wife or next to my wife.
As far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, do you recall anything specific that you discussed or talked about while you were there that night?
No, nothing in particular.
Throughout the course of time that you were there, what, if any, discussion was there as to going someplace or wanting to go someplace after?
We have this little ritual that when one of my nieces or nephews turn 21, we go back to the pizza shop after hours and turn on the oven and make pizzas and stuff. There was talk about going back there. Miss Reed asked if we could go back and make pizzas up at my pizza shop a couple times. There was some talk about maybe after. Someone mentioned going back to my brother's house after.
Just to be clear, your brother's house, which brother?
My brother Brian,
Where did your brother Brian live?
34th Field.
Familiar with that address?
Yeah, I used to live there, grew up there.
So prior to being your brother Brian's house, was that your parents?
My parents' house, yeah.
That's you and your siblings essentially grew up from.
Yes.
As far as going over to your pizza shop to make pizzas, things like that, is that something that the defendant talked about once or more than once?
A few times.
You referenced this ritual when one of your nieces or nephews turned 21, and it was your nephew Brian Jr.'s birthday the following day, is that correct?
Yeah,
Was he turning 21 at that point?
I think so. I can't remember exactly if he was 20 or 21. I think he was turning 21 now.
In relation to this evening of January 8th, that the ritual you were talking about, when was the last time before January 28th that you had done that?
Trying to see who else turned 21. Can't remember exactly. I know it was recent. I remember doing it. I just can't remember the date.
That's all I'm really asking.
Yeah.
Was it recent to January 28th?
Yeah, it was sometime before that, but within a couple of months, I think someone turned 21. Maybe we just went there.
So what, if any, conversation from your end, as far as obviously it's your pizza shop, so
Yeah.
what, if any, conversation from your end was there in reference
To doing that night. So we were doing a weight loss competition, me, Matt McCabe, and my brother Brian. We had like 2 more weeks left in it, and we do it. Every year it's a charity. We do it. The proceeds go to scholarship funds. So I said no because we were doing this weight loss challenge, and I just didn't want to give in and eat pizza 2 weeks before we were weighing in.
Your wife, Julie, how long was she at the bar?
Not long when I got there. She probably was only there for maybe 35, 40 minutes. She had a migraine. She wanted to go home, so she left.
Indicated she ran that she was going.
Yeah, she didn't feel well.
Was that or after Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
She left after they arrived. So then she must have left later than that. Yeah.
Later on in the evening, what, if anything, did you buy for the group?
So at one point towards the end of the night, I bought a round of fireball shots for the group.
Who partook in
Mr.
that?
I don't remember
Pitbull.
exactly. Probably half of the people
Fireball.
there took them. I don't remember everyone. I wasn't paying attention.
When you say towards the end of the night, when was it that things wrapped up?
I think they called last call right before 12. I pretty much right before 12, it all started wrapping up.
As far as the group that you were with at the high top table, if anyone from that group left?
Left first, obviously. She didn't feel well. She left earlier. Brian and Brian left. My sister-in-law left. Matt and Jen left. I left probably second to last. I probably left last with John and Karen, or right around the time that John and Karen left.
As far as you're leaving around time, you're walking out together or seeing them outside, or where is it you recall leaving at the same time?
My best recollection is I walked out roughly the same time, and I walked out the building and I come up Washington to the right. They were either shortly after or shortly before me, and they walk up to the left.
When you say walk up Washington, did you walk home that night?
Yeah, I walked home.
When you came out of the bar, what, if anything, did you notice about the weather or what was going on?
It just started snowing. It was cold out. It just started snowing. The ground had a light coat.
Could you still see the street? Or
Oh, yeah, yeah. You could still see it.
You mentioned you walked out towards Washington, and Mr. Keith and Miss Reed did as well.
Yes.
Which direction? Did you go in the same direction, different direction?
When you come out the building, you have to go to the left in order to get onto Washington. So I come out to the left and then go to the right onto Washington. They would go to the left on Washington.
Walking
Opposite directions. Yes.
As far as throughout the course of the evening, did you have occasion to see what Mr. O'Keefe, you mentioned that he went to the bar. Was that the only beer that you saw him having, or did he have?
I'm sure he had more than one. Yeah, I saw him with more than one.
So you saw him, but essentially what I'm asking is throughout the course of the evening when you saw him drinking, other than maybe a fireball shot, you saw him just drinking beer.
Just beer.
As far as Miss Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe her drinking?
Just a clear liquid in a glass. I assume it was some sort of vodka drink.
Was that the same glass that she had come into the establishment with under her coat, or was it a different glass later on?
I believe it was the same one.
You leave from the waterfall and you're walking home, is that right?
Correct.
Fair to say you didn't go to 34 Fairview that
I
night?
did not.
About what time was it that you got?
Sometime between, I'd say 5 past and 10 past 12, something more in that window.
Was your wife home at that point?
She was.
As far as your children were concerned, how many of your 3 sons were living with you?
At that time, 2. My 16-year-old, he wasn't 16 years old at the time, but my 16-year-old and my 20-year-old.
So 16 and 20 now.
16 and 20 now, so that'd be 14 and 18 then.
And so your oldest son,
He was in the San Diego in the Navy.
and if, or did you check or anything as far as your kids when you got home? Were they there?
No, I ran right upstairs. I was freezing. I went right into my room.
Essentially, you went to bed, is that correct?
Correct.
With the court permission, I would ask to publish for the jury just a small portion from what's been marked as Exhibit 53, the waterfall surveillance. If I could have from Channel 3's video, you could just pause there for a moment. Mr. Albert, looking up at the screen, do you recognize generally what's picked up on the screen?
Yeah, so those are the tables that I was speaking of that are like, there's 2 or 3 in a row. Yep.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Coach Arm?
Yes.
I don't have any.
My fault. Thank you very much. So what I'm handing to you is a laser pointer. Basically, just click that button. Using that laser pointer that I just handed to you, if you could attention to about where the high top is and then about where you were seated at that height.
So here's the high top. And I can't really see myself, to be honest with you, this way. But somewhere, I think I ate on this
As far as the bar is concerned, where would that?
back here. Wait, this is, oh, so this is from walking into the waterfall. So the bar is after, so that's the high top next to the bar's back there.
As far as the band that you were talking about that was playing, if you could direct the jury's attention to where that.
On this side over here, it's fuzzy, but that's it.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to fast forward to 10:55, I would ask if you could play that from 10:54 to about 10:56. I'm sorry, if you could just pause briefly, Ms. Gilman. Mr. Albert, looking up at the screen, as far as the door that you came out, the door that you eventually exited from the waterfall, do you see that general area and where that is in the video?
No, because I think it's offline here. I think it would be over here.
So it would be off towards the left.
Yeah, like down this way.
As far as 2 individuals walking in, do you recognize those individuals are?
I do. That's John O'Keefe and Miss Reed.
And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just run it through 10 minutes. You can take that. Mr. Albert, as far as your son, Colin, do you know where he was that night?
Yes. So he was at my brother Brian's house for my nephew's birthday.
And he came home sometime after you, is that correct?
Correct.
Essentially, you came in, went to bed. Do you know what time son came home that night?
I know that.
Do you know, just answer yes or no whether you,
Yes,
How do you know that?
because he opened the bedroom door and said, "Good night, guys. I love you. I'm home."
about how long after you got home was it that?
I'd say within 10 minutes.
As far as coming into your room, is that something that was required of your kids when they came home?
He would always do that. Yeah, that was something just to let us know that they were home.
Turning your attention to the next day on the 29th, about probably at some point you woke up, do you recall about what time that was?
8-ish, 8:30-ish.
So sometime between 8 and 8:30?
Yeah, I was still in bed. I woke up, but I didn't leave my room.
What was it that, or who was it that woke you up?
At that time, I just woke up on my own.
And when you woke up, what happened after?
Shortly after I woke up, my wife entered the room, but that was a little bit later. I don't know exactly what time. And she informed me that something had happened to John.
What was it that she told you?
I don't know what she said, but basically that John had died.
What, if anything, did she indicate to you as to where John?
That he was found somewhere on the front lawn of 34 Fairview.
And receiving that information, where did you go or where did you?
I was in shock. I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I jumped up and she's like, let's go over to your brother's house.
About what time was it, that you?
Sometime approximately after 9 o'clock. I don't remember exactly what time we went over there, maybe 9 or 9:30.
When you arrived at your brother's house, who, if anyone?
To the best of my recollection, from what I remember, I was there, my wife was there, my brother Brian, Nicole, Brian Higgins was there. I believe Matt McCabe was there and Jen McCabe was there.
When you came into the home, where were they in place?
Just sitting at the kitchen table.
If you know about how long did you stay at your brother's house when you came over?
Maybe an hour.
Where did you go from there?
Afterwards, just home.
As far as subsequent to this, at some points within the days that followed, you have occasion to speak with some troopers or members of the state police?
Yes, I did.
How many troopers from the state police did you talk to?
2.
Where was that?
At my condo.
Thanks. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Mr. Albert, you and I have never met, correct?
I don't believe so.
You testified that you essentially lived in Canton your whole life, correct?
Correct.
Moved there when you were 4 years old.
Correct.
The house to which you and your family moved was 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You lived there for how long?
30 years?
You currently own D Pizza in Canton.
Correct.
I believe you testified that you've owned it for approximately 25 years.
Correct.
Clearly, you have a lot of ties to the city of Canton. Would you agree?
Sure.
You live there.
Yes.
You work there.
Yes.
You have family there. You raised your kids there.
Yep.
You also are a town selectman in the city of Canton. Or
Recently elected.
The town of Canton, I should
It's a town. Correct.
say. Not only that, but your brother, Kevin Albert, is a police officer in Canton.
He is.
Your brother, Brian Albert, with whom you grew up, is currently retired, but had been a Boston police officer who lived in Canton, correct?
Correct.
You would agree with me that Brian Albert only moved from Canton after John O'Keefe was found dead on his front lawn, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
I'll phrase it the exact same way and ask for a yes or no if you can do that. You would agree with me that your brother Brian Albert only moved from Canton after John O'Keefe was found dead on his front.
Objection.
Can you answer?
Yeah, I just don't understand the phrase, but he moved shortly after that. Yes.
Your brother Tim Albert lives with your parents in Canton, correct?
Correct.
Tim Albert and your parents live directly across the street from the Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whom they bought that house from?
Objection.
The objection stayed.
But you still live in Canton
Correct.
with your wife Julie Albert,
Correct.
your son Colin Albert, correct?
Along with my other 2 sons. Yes.
You would agree that your entire family has deep roots in the town of Canton.
I guess.
You would agree with me that the Albert family is well known in the town of Canton.
We have a big family.
You would agree with me that the Albert family is a powerful family in the town of Canton.
Objection.
Sustained.
As a town selectman, you have some power, do you not?
I'm one of 5 selectmen.
As a police detective, Kevin Albert has some power, does he not?
Objection.
Sustained.
You also have close friends on the Canton Police Department, do you not?
Objection.
All allowed.
I have some.
You know that Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor is the lead investigator on this case, correct?
I know that.
One of your wife's best friends is Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney Proctor, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. You've got another witness. You can ask that of, Mr. Minetti.
Proctor, correct?
Objection.
Allowed.
Yes,
You know her to be Michael's sister, correct?
that's correct.
You attended Michael Proctor's sister's wedding, correct?
Objection. May we approach?
I believe you testified, sir, that you've known Michael Proctor's sister for about 20 years.
Objection.
I don't think he said that, but we'll let that stand and then move on, please.
About 20 years.
Or if that's,
I believe, didn't you testify that on direct examination just moments ago when Mr. Lally was asking you questions?
Objection, Your Honor.
Next question, Mr. Unity, objections?
How long have you known Michael Proctor for?
I mean, I know he's Courtney's sister, brother. I couldn't tell you exactly how long I've known him for.
About 15 years or so?
Roughly.
All right. Who is Kenneth Berkowitz?
The former Canton police chief.
How do you know him?
His son and my son are the same age, so they played on some sports teams when they were younger together. I think that's when I first came to know.
You became friendly with him.
I became friendly with him, sure.
How would you characterize your relationship with him?
Friends,
You've seen him socially.
really.
You've been out for drinks with him.
I think maybe once,
You've known him for how long?
20 plus years.
You say you've only been out with him for drink one time in those 20 years?
I can't even remember if it was with drinks one time. Yeah, no.
What other types of activities have you done together?
I can't think of any. I think he came to an event that I held one time. That's about it.
Have you been out with him in a group setting?
That event that I just mentioned, yeah.
What event was that?
It was my campaign event when I was running for select board.
He was one of your supporters.
He came by.
Did he donate money to your campaign?
I think he did.
Sir, I'm going to display a photograph with the court's permission on the screen, and I'd ask you to take a look at it if you let the jury
Do you have a
know.
hard copy of it? Why don't you show it to the witness?
You do that. Thank you, Ron.
We'll take that into evidence and then.
That makes sense.
I
Sir,
like
handed
this so
you a
far.
Photograph, do you
It's a
recognize
lot
what
better than
that
it has
depicts?
been.
Yes,
What does it look?
me and Kenny Berkowitz.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of you and Kenny Berkowitz?
You mean is the picture us? Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor. Mr. Albert, that's obviously you on the right and Kenny Berkowitz on the left.
Correct.
Have you seen that photo before?
I believe I've seen it.
Do you recall when?
I believe that's my fundraiser for when I was running for the select board, that event that I spoke of earlier.
When would it have been that you saw that?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was on my Facebook page when I was running for select board. It looks familiar.
Has Mr. Lally shown you that photograph?
No,
Has he informed you that the defense would be introducing that photograph during this trial?
nope.
Give me your photo down, Mr. Bates. And the lights on the wall. You would agree with me that one of your functions, selectman, is to oversee public safety in the town?
Yes,
You would agree that the police department is a key component of public safety in the town of Canton?
yes,
So part of your duties as a town selectman is to oversee the Canton Police Department, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll let him have it. Is that one of your duties?
I believe so. I'm new at that. I'm recently elected, so I'm just going through it. But yeah, I believe so.
You became a
Does
town
he ask
selectman
when he
shortly
got
after
elected?
Kenny Berkowitz retired, correct?
I'm not sure when Kenny retired.
But you would agree with me that Kenny Berkowitz has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You would agree with me that former Canton Police Chief Kenny Berkowitz has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family.
Objection, Your Honor. It's the same question.
Go ahead and answer that question.
I'm not sure. I agree with that question.
Your brother Kevin Albert worked under Chief Berkowitz, correct?
Correct.
Would you consider that to be a professional relationship?
With them too, yes.
Your brother Brian Albert attended Chief Berkowitz's retirement party, did he not?
I have no idea.
But your brother Brian is also a friend of Kenny Berkowitz, is he not?
He may be, not sure.
As far as your ties to the Canton Police, you would agree with me that Lieutenant Michael Blank is a member of the Canton Police Department, correct?
He is.
You've been friends with him for years, correct?
I've known him for a long time.
You've been childhood friends with him since the age, correct?
Somewhere around there, maybe earlier.
Now, Michael Lank is the guy that testified, was it day 6? Yeah, day 6.
Sure.
Well, no. Day 5, which was Monday, he was the last witness of the day. They did the voir dire thing, which means they went over, Alan Jackson went over his proposed line of questioning without the presence of the jury. That was end of day Monday. And then Tuesday, after Sean Good was done, then most of Tuesday was Michael Lank's testimony. He's the one with the red Solo cups.
You're tight with him.
I don't know if I'd call it tight.
He's not an enemy of yours, is he?
Oh, God, no.
No, he's a friend of yours, correct?
Sure.
Does sure mean yes?
Yes.
Your older brother, Brian, you've already testified, was a Boston police officer for years, correct?
Correct.
He achieved some notoriety on a television show, did he not?
Objection.
He was in the fugitive unit.
Correct.
You know that your brother Brian was also a trained boxer.
Okay, so another little nugget of information with regards to Brian and what Unetti just asked. Somebody who's a new friend of mine or new follower of mine on X, formerly Twitter, had said last week when Katie McLaughlin was testifying, saying she didn't know the Alberts, etc. The new follower of mine on Twitter said back during like the Boston Marathon, BOMBING, apparently he was like all over like billboards and TV. So she's like, basically, how nobody in that whole town doesn't know who that Brian Albert is. He was all over the, media.
Correct?
Objection.
Sustain.
Brian is a lot bigger guy than you are, correct?
Objection.
Sustain.
Your brother Brian Albert is someone who is close to his family, correct?
Yes.
When I say his family, I'm talking about not just his wife and children, but also his extended family, correct?
Yes.
You were part of his family, obviously.
Yes.
Your son Colin is part of his family.
Also, I would like to thank Kathleen Connolly for subscribing 9 minutes ago. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're trying to get to that magic, elusive, if you will, 500 subscribers on YouTube. So I appreciate it.
Family, correct?
Yes.
The Albert family is close, correct?
Yes.
You all essentially grew up in Canton, correct?
Correct.
You hung out with each other growing up, correct?
We were siblings.
Of course.
Yes.
You still hang out with each other quite often, correct?
Like all of us,
In various combinations.
we have different relationships with my siblings.
Sure, but you see some more than others, but you hang out with your family, do you not?
Yeah, mostly during holidays,
You go out for drinks together, correct?
occasionally,
You're protective of each other, correct?
like most families.
If someone had a dispute with a member of the Albert family, Brian wouldn't be happy about, correct?
Objection.
You know that Brian would stick up for your kids, correct?
Objection.
Your son Colin is particularly close to your brother Brian, is he not?
Objection.
Do you know?
Yes.
In fact, your son Colin was a football player through high school, was he not?
Yes.
What was his number?
In high school,
Yes.
34, I believe.
Was that for 34 Fairview?
I don't think so.
You testified you moved to Maple Street in Canton not long before January 28th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Before that, you lived at 7 Meadows Ave in Canton?
Correct.
That was when John O'Keefe was your neighbor, correct?
Correct.
I believe you testified he was a couple of houses away from you.
Yes.
He was your neighbor for a series of years, was he not?
Yes.
While he was living in the neighborhood, you knew that he was working as a Boston police officer, correct?
Correct.
You were familiar with him, correct?
What do you mean? What do you mean by familiar?
You knew who he was. You became familiar
He
with
was
him.
my neighbor. I knew who he was.
You knew that he was not married.
Yes.
At a certain point, you knew that he was dating Karen Read.
Yeah, at some point.
You would agree with me that your family has a police background, sir, correct?
I wouldn't agree with that statement.
Two of your brothers are or were police officers, correct?
Out of 7 of us, yes.
You knew friends of your brothers who were also police officers or in law enforcement, correct? You had already testified that some members of the Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
You socialized with police officers, did you not?
Have I? Sure.
You've been to bars with police officers, correct?
Correct.
You drank with police officers, right?
Sure.
You were friendly with police officers, correct?
Yes.
With regard to, I'd like to ask you some questions about people specifically connected to this case. We've established that Lieutenant has been a friend of yours for years, correct?
Yes.
We've established that former police chief Kenneth Berkowitz, in such a way that you feel comfortable calling him before this jury Kenny Berkowitz, correct?
I know Kenny. Yep.
He's actually donated to your campaign when you were running for town selectman, correct?
Correct.
You also knew Michael Proctor prior to January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You've attended social events together with him, have you not?
Objection.
I'll let that one question.
Couple.
At some point, Michael Proctor came to question you, did he not?
Along with another trooper. Correct.
At the point in time when Michael Proctor came to question you, you knew who he was, correct?
Yes.
You knew him by face, correct?
Correct.
You knew him by name.
Thank you, Stephen Waldron, for subscribing on YouTube. I appreciate you. This is slicker than slick. You will never watch trials the same way again, as long as you can handle a little bit of a delay. We are vetting. We are vetting this. I've had a couple days of practice now. Thank you so much.
Correct?
Correct.
There was no need for Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you, was there?
Objection.
What did he say when he first walked in the door in terms of introductions?
Objection.
Without getting into the precise wording, you'd agree with me that there was no need for Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you for that meeting, correct?
Yes.
He didn't need to say, "How do you do? I am Michael Proctor," correct?
No.
No. Do you consider the Proctors to be the Albert second family?
Objection.
Do you consider that?
No.
You are aware that there are members of the Proctors family who have posted publicly that the Alberts
Objection,
are
Your
their
Honor.
second family, correct?
So the objection is sustained, and I'm striking that question.
At the time that Trooper Michael Proctor showed up to question you, sir, you knew that Karen Read had been charged in this case, correct?
Yes.
You knew that John O'Keefe had been found dead on your brother's lawn, correct?
Correct.
Did it occur to you that it was odd that the state police sent somebody from the Proctor family to interview you?
Objection, Your Honor.
On February 10th of 2022?
Sustained.
You've testified that on January 28th of 2020, that day, that Friday that you were working, John O'Keefe stopped in Pizza, your shop, correct?
Correct.
There was discussion about whether you would be going out that night, and if so, where you would be, correct?
Correct.
You've previously, on direct examination, characterized your relationship with him as being friends, correct?
Correct.
It's fair to say, however, that prior to January 28th of 2020, you had never exchanged personal information with John O, correct?
You mean, I'm sorry, you mean like phone numbers or, but
The cell number prior to that day.
no, I didn't.
At that point in time, he had lived in your neighborhood for 4 to 5 years, correct?
Correct.
I believe you testified that night after working, you went out around 10 minutes to 10 p.m.
Roughly.
Before going out, did you have anything alcoholic to drink?
I think I may have had a beer at my pizza shop. I don't remember exactly.
So you have a refrigerator there that you can keep drinks cold, correct?
Among other things.
You do have beers in that fridge? for
Sometimes.
Personal use?
Sometimes.
Do you know how many beers that you would have had before going out?
No.
Would you have drank that beer as you were cleaning up at the end of the night?
Probably.
Did you have anything to eat at the pizza shop? When did you last eat before you went out at 9:50 or so?
When did I last eat?
Yes.
It's a long time ago. I'm not sure.
You knew that your wife Julie was starting the night at CF McCarthy's, correct?
Yes.
You couldn't meet her there because you were still working, right?
Correct.
But at some point you heard that Julie and others were headed to the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
That was where you planned to go after you closed up Gay Pizza.
Correct.
With regard to the time that you left, 9:50 or so is your best estimate of when you're closing the doors and walking over to the waterfall?
Yes.
The waterfall is a short walk to D Pizza,
Yes.
maybe about 3 minutes.
About that.
Your plan was to walk there that night, correct?
Correct.
You had not taken a car to D Pizza anyway, right?
I don't believe so.
So what time did you get to the waterfall?
Shortly before 10. I don't know exactly.
All right. I believe you've testified that John O'Keefe and Karen Read were not there when you arrived, right?
Correct.
The food that you ordered, do you remember what appetizers you would have gotten?
Probably potato skins and some sort of chicken tenders. I would guess. It's 2 years
my
ago,
God,
so I
I'm
don't
so
remember
hungry.
exactly.
Did you order a drink along with the appetizers?
I believe so.
All right, and that would have been the Miller Lite that you talked about?
Correct.
Not long after you got there, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins showed up, correct?
Correct.
You had met Brian Higgins prior to that night.
Yes.
In fact, you had testified that you had seen him around quite a bit, correct?
A few times.
You knew him, I believe your testimony was, from him working inside the Canton police station, correct?
I knew that he worked there.
Did you testify on direct examination, quote, "I knew him from working inside Canton PD"?
Yes.
You've been inside Canton Police, correct?
Maybe twice in my life.
You knew that Brian Albert, your brother, and Brian Higgins were friends, correct?
I knew they knew each other.
So are you saying that they were acquaintances?
No, I guess they're friends.
You guess they're friends?
Yeah, they're friends.
Was there something confusing about my question the first time I asked it?
Objection, Your Honor.
In any case, would you agree that shortly before Brian Albert and Brian Higgins arrived at the waterfall, or shortly after they did, there was a couple whom I believe you call them a Greek couple because their last name is difficult to pronounce for everybody. But do you remember them being there?
Yes,
All right. If I mention the name Kolakith, does that ring a bell?
that's them, yeah.
That's them, okay. The whole group was either standing or sitting around a high top table.
Those are the two witnesses that testified at the end of the day, day 7, yesterday afternoon. Nicholas, and I forget her name, but they were witness the second to the last and the last one yesterday, day 7.
Correct.
At 9:45 p.m., you texted John O'Keefe while you were at the waterfall, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree with me that the language of your text was, quote, "Get over here or I'll fuck up your lawn," end quote?
That was one of the texts.
I've placed a document before you, sir. Take a look at that and tell the jury whether or not you recognize it.
Yeah, I recognize it.
What is it?
It's a text message, 2 text messages.
Who are the participants in that text exchange?
Me and John.
What is it that you said at what time?
So the first
May we
one,
approach?
Yes, I did yesterday. So before you consider any electronic communication in your
Okay, so I might have cut out a little. Okay, so that's another thing you can put in the comments section. Like when and I will say that his wife, Julie, I did not do as much editing on hers because I really wanted to watch this and I didn't want it to get too late. So I just took out like filler words and shortened the spaces, shortened the gaps and repetitive words. Lally does a lot of repeating. Anyway, so when they, with this guy here, like when they'd say, "Your Honor, may I approach?" I took like that kind of stuff out. Now, that might be something that's necessary or not, but I gotta say, I love this. This is the best one I've done so far. I hope you do too. You will never watch a trial again, the same way again.
your deliberations, you must first find that it's more likely true than not true that the person who either authored or sent or created or transmitted the
So this is kind of like the jury instructions that she gave the other day also. So
communication was in fact John O'Keefe
did leave
and
this
this witness,
in.
Chris Albert. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that John O'Keefe
I'm going to just rewind it. So I think I trimmed out like the "may I approach," and then I don't know, there might have been like something else I might have not quite done properly. So it's a little choppy.
today. So before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you
text
must
messages.
first find that it's more likely true than not true that the person who either authored or sent or created or transmitted the communication was in fact John O'Keefe and this witness, Chris Albert. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that John O'Keefe sent one or that this witness was the person who sent the message or transmitted it, then you may not consider it in deciding this case. You have clarification a bit, Mr. Yannetti?
I do, yes. Just for the record and for the juror's edification, this is part of Exhibit B, which is already in evidence, but I would ask that this particular exchange be posted on the screen with the court.
Sure.
So you'd agree that when you say it was 2 text messages, they're both with regard to the same subject, correct?
What do you mean? I'm following you.
It says "get over here," right? The second is a continuation of that. "If not, I'm going to fuck up your lawn," correct?
You mean that's to tell him to come over to the waterfall?
Right.
I just didn't understand what you meant.
That's fine. So you're telling John O'Keefe this, correct?
Yeah, I'm telling him to come over and meet us.
All right. That little emoji, that face emoji after "if not, I'm going to fuck up your lawn," that's
It's a laughing face.
right. So you're
It's a joke.
saying you're cracking up.
Yeah, it's a joke. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Apologize.
We can take that down. At about 10:45 p.m. or so, I believe you testified, that was when John O'Keefe walked into the bar with his girlfriend, Karen Read.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Would you agree with me that between the time you arrived and the time you eventually left, that you did go up to the bar within that establishment a few times
I'm sure he did.
and bought a few rounds of drinks,
I'm sure.
including that one round of fireball shots?
Correct.
What was the
Fireball,
state
Mr.
of your
People.
sobriety when John and Karen arrived?
Probably fine. Fine.
You didn't feel intoxicated or unable to perceive what's going on. You were still in control of your faculties.
Yes.
Is it true that after John and Karen arrived, that your wife, Julie, didn't want to stay any longer or too much longer?
She didn't want to. She had a headache, so she wanted to go home.
By that point in time, you had been there about an hour, maybe a little less.
When Karen and John arrived? Yeah, about an hour.
And you were having fun.
Sure.
So Julie drove home, but you stayed, correct?
Correct.
All right. In terms of Karen Read's drinking, as far as you could see, she had that glass that she came in with that appeared to have a clear liquid in it, correct?
Correct.
I believe you said either a lime or a lemon.
Thought I said a lime, but yeah.
You assumed that was vodka and soda water or vodka in some type of mixer, correct? It was clear?
Correct.
If she was, while drinking that night, if she was mixing in water in between alcoholic drinks, it would have been impossible for you to discern which drinks were water and which drinks were vodka, correct?
Yeah, I would have no idea.
You can't tell that by eyeballing a drink, right?
No.
Because both liquids are clear.
Yes.
In order to discern that, you'd actually have to be given a sip to see, right? But in any case, Karen did not appear to be under the influence of alcohol to you.
I didn't notice anything.
She wasn't stumbling, correct?
Nope.
She wasn't swaying.
I didn't notice.
She didn't appear to be unbalanced, correct?
I didn't notice anything.
She wasn't slurring her words. She wasn't talking gibberish, correct?
No.
She was engaging in normal conversation and she appeared to be under control.
Yeah.
Would you agree with me that she also appeared to be affectionate with John O'Keefe?
I wasn't really watching their interactions too much, to be honest.
But in any case, you never saw any arguing between the two of them.
I wasn't really paying attention to their interactions.
You didn't perceive any tension between them, correct?
I didn't notice anything irregular.
From your observations of Karen Read that night, and you were there probably over 2 hours, were you not?
Total? About that, yeah.
From your observations of Karen that night, you would have had no problem with her driving a car, correct?
I wouldn't even have thought about it.
Would you agree with me that of the group that you had met out, that you were the last person to leave the waterfall on January 29th of 2022?
I believe so.
You testified on direct examination today, I believe, that you thought you got home between 12:05 and 12:10 on January 29th, correct?
That's what I remember.
If I suggested to you that you didn't even leave the bar until 12:13 a.m., would you quarrel with that?
Would I quarrel with it?
Yes.
No, I guess not.
Is your memory exhausted as to the precise time that you left the bar?
Is it exhausted?
In other words, do you not remember the precise time that you left the bar that
Well, who
early morning?
remembers
It's over
that?
2 years ago. I don't know the precise time. That's why I said between 12:05 and 12.
That answers my question. Thank you. Could we have, with the court's permission, can I publish
That's being
to
a
the
little
grades
nitpicky
short
in my
clip from the
opinion.
waterfall?
Sure.
Can we pause it for a second, please? Ms. Rowley, you would agree with me, this was clearly the end of the night?
Sure.
The lights are all on at this point.
Yes.
The bar appears to have largely emptied out.
Yes.
Continue, please. Pause it. There we go. My co-counsel much better at this than I. Do you know who that person is who's leaving the bar at this point at 12:13 and 43 a.m.?
Christine, it might be better without that spotlight. See it now?
Yeah. I believe it's me.
Having now viewed that video with the timestamp of 12:13 and about 3 seconds or so, does that refresh your memory as to when you left the waterfall?
Yes.
That would mean it would have been impossible for you to get home to Maple Street by 12:05 or 12:10, correct?
Correct.
Oh,
It was about maybe a 7-minute walk home. Would you agree with me?
From Waterfall to Maple? No, I said 7 minutes from D to Waterfall. Waterfall to Maple is probably less than 5 minutes.
So it's your testimony that D is closer to the waterfall than the waterfall is to Maple Street?
Deanie's farther away from Waterfall than farther away from where I lived. Waterfall is. I don't follow you. I'm sorry.
I'll try to clarify. I
Okay.
don't mean to be confusing.
It's fine.
I'm not asking about the distance between D and E and your home. I'm trying to compare or ask you to compare the distance between D and E and the waterfall. The waterfall, do you see the difference?
I
So
think
do you agree with me that your home is farther from the waterfall than D and Pizza is from the waterfall?
I don't follow you. I'm sorry.
So let's take it step by step. D Pizza to the waterfall. Are they on the same street?
Yes.
How many establishments are between D Pizza and the waterfall?
Just a few.
So it's a very short walk from D Pizza to the waterfall.
Yes.
Correct? Your home on Maple Street is not on the same street as the waterfall, correct?
It's off of the same street.
But it's not on the same street. Your home on Maple Street is farther from the waterfall than D Pizza is to the waterfall. Is it not?
Correct, correct. I didn't understand it earlier.
No, I know, and I'm trying to work through this because, again, I'm not trying to trick you here. I just want to get the answer. You would agree with me that it would take you longer to walk home from the waterfall than it would take you to walk to the waterfall from Dean Pizza?
Correct.
All right. I believe you said that one walk was 7 minutes and one walk was maybe less than 5 minutes, correct?
Yes,
All right. The 7-minute walk would have been the walk home as opposed to the walk to the waterfall, correct?
yes,
All right. So you have agreed that you left the bar at 12:13, almost 12:14, according to the video, and it would have taken you about 7 minutes to walk home, correct?
not exactly sure how. I think
Can I see Counselor Tadpole for just a second, please?
Hi, great success. How are you? We are testing my latest invention. It's called
It's been
Bare
pointed out to me
Justice.
that I think we're not making a connection here.
It's called Bare Justice. I just came up with it the other day. And what I'm doing, because everybody and their brother is doing the Karen Read trial, and I want to watch it, but I get bored like just watching it and having nothing to do. So the other day I was thinking, what's a really good way? Because I used to do these on like a delay, like a 3-4 hour delay, but there's still like dead spots. So I need practice with these computer programs that I'm learning. So now I came up with this idea, Bare Justice, where we take all the pauses out. We take all the pauses out and it's just stripped down, bare, stripped down testimony. It's a little tiny bit fast, but I mean, I'm sure you could probably slow it down if you wanted to. Karen Read seems popular nowadays. You know, I thought she probably just like hit him and you know, it was an accident, but the more I started like deep better than speeding up. Yeah, yeah, so this is at a little bit of an accelerated rate. I think there's only 2 witnesses today, but like this guy, his testimony was over 2 hours and we got it down to 59 minutes. So it goes by really fast, but I personally love it. There's some tweaking. It does sound a little bit robotish, kind of, you know, because it has to take out the gaps. And I might make the gaps a little tiny bit bigger, but so far so good. Thank you for joining me.
I think it might be my fault. With regard to the timing of how long it took you to go home, I believe your best estimate is about 5 minutes? Is that your testimony? When I say home, I'm not talking about from D&E Pizza. I'm talking about that early morning when you're at the waterfall.
I understand. Yeah, I'd say around 5 minutes. I think from the waterfall to Maple Street.
Fair enough. So now, if you're leaving the bar at close to 12:14, as indicated on the video, you're getting home somewhere around 12:19, 12:20, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
What were you wearing that night?
Blue jeans, sneakers, I think, and a sweatshirt.
It had started to snow by that point.
A little bit.
So the ground was a little bit either slushy or wet.
Not slushy, but could have been wet.
Could have been wet. The snow had not yet started to accumulate, or had it?
It didn't start. No.
All right. You're walking home, but it was cold, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree that in the best case scenario, you might have had a little bit more clothing on for that cold walk?
I think I had a sweatshirt on.
But you could have used something else, right?
Oh, probably.
In light of the weather?
Probably.
All right. Because you testified that by the time you got home, you were pretty cold, right?
Correct.
You hadn't, if it had been about a 5-minute walk, that was enough time for you to walk in almost shivering, correct?
Sure.
Given that there was precipitation, that the snow had started, the sweatshirt would absorb the moisture as opposed to repel it, correct?
Sure.
So you were wet as well when you walked in, right?
Sure.
By that point in time, you were tired, correct?
I don't remember if I was tired, but I don't remember if I was tired at that point.
You had worked all day
Correct.
till late in the day, actually into the evening, correct?
Correct.
Taking pizzas in and out of the hot oven,
Correct.
as well as other food that you serve as well. correct?
Yep.
You're now, and by the way, you'd had a couple of drinks or a few drinks, whatever it was, at the waterfall, correct?
Correct.
You decided not to go to your brother Brian Albert's house.
Correct.
That was in part because you weren't up for the continued partying at that point, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to go home.
So when you got home, would you agree with me that your first priority would have been getting out of the wet clothes that you were in?
Correct.
Where would you have done that?
In my bedroom.
Is this a townhouse or is it a freestanding residence?
It's a condominium.
How many floors?
There's 3 floors.
Your bedroom's on the top floor?
Correct.
The entrance is ground level?
Correct.
When you first entered the home in those wet clothes, where was your wife, Julie?
Upstairs in the bedroom.
Was she already washed up and ready for bed?
She was lying in bed.
Where did you go when you walked in the ground level?
I went up to the bedroom,
All right.
took off my clothes, jumped in bed.
Do you have a master bath with regard to your bedroom?
There's a bathroom, yeah.
All right. That would have been where you brushed,
Yeah.
washed up?
But I did, that's where I would do those things, but I didn't do them. No.
Did you grab a drink of water before
Nope.
you went to bed?
Nope.
All right. So you essentially came home, and I think we agreed it was around 12:20 or so, give or take a minute.
Roughly.
You made a beeline for your bedroom.
Correct.
Did you fall asleep shortly thereafter?
Soon after,
Within 5 minutes or so?
I started to doze off. I don't know exactly how soon after I fell asleep.
All right. Sometime within 5 or 10 minutes, you say?
I would say more within 15 minutes.
15 minutes. With regard to getting home, and we'll call it 12:19, because I think that's more consistent with what you said, understanding that it's just an estimate. If you're walking in the door 12:19, it takes you maybe a minute to get upstairs.
About a minute.
You kicked off your sneakers downstairs, I imagine.
Maybe. I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
You walked up 2 flights of stairs. right?
Probably ran up the stairs because I was cold.
All right. So you're getting up there around 12:20 or so, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
You believe that you dozed off about minutes later, which would have made it about 5?
Somewhere around there.
When you came home, you would agree with me that your son, Colin Albert, was not, correct?
Not when I first got home.
In fact, I think your testimony was that minutes after you got home,
What I thinking it over, so obviously it was a little bit longer.
because you actually woke up when he opened the bedroom door, correct?
I don't think so.
Did you not just testify before this jury, just, I don't know, maybe an hour, that you fell asleep and that your son Colin opened the bedroom door and woke you up to say goodnight?
Yeah, I guess that's what I said.
When you testified to that on direct examination, that was when Mr. Lally was asking you questions, correct?
Correct.
You knew that you were under oath at that time, correct?
Correct.
You were trying to be as accurate as possible, correct?
Trying to be correct.
All right. In terms of the timing of this, assuming that he opened the bedroom door after you already fell asleep, if you're getting home upstairs to your bedroom around 12:20 and it takes you 15 minutes to go to bed, that's around 12:35, then sometime after you're asleep, after 12:05, that's when you open the bedroom door, correct?
I don't remember exactly.
Well, it's difficult for you to remember how long you'd been asleep for when Colin opened the bedroom door, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or longer, correct?
I don't know exactly.
Right. But it was sometime after you fell asleep.
To the best of my recollection.
With regard to your son, Colin, he obviously lived in the same neighborhood as John O'Keefe because that's where your family lived, correct?
Correct.
Back in 2022, Colin Albert was 17 years old.
Correct. Part of the year.
You knew that, like most teenagers, Colin drank alcohol with his buddies, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain for the jury who or what is Nebercracker?
What is Nebercracker?
Yes,
Like the character?
that's what I'm asking.
It's a character in a cartoon called Monster House.
Would you agree with me that Nebercracker in the movie Monster House was this kind of old curmudgeon
kids hated
who
that
didn't
movie.
want anybody on his lawn, correct?
The character, yes.
He was the get off my lawn guy, correct?
In the movie, yeah.
What was your nickname and your wife name for John O'Keefe?
Mr. Nebercracker.
All right. Your wife Julie actually had John O'Keefe plugged into his contacts as Nebercracker, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were there one time when Julie showed Karen Read, her phone to show how John O'Keefe was plugged in as Nebercracker, correct?
I believe so.
This whole nickname started because of a conflict that Colin Albert had with John O'Keefe.
Not correct.
John O'Keefe complained to you about things that Colin was doing.
Not correct.
He would tell you that Colin used to throw beer cans or beer bottles in his bush, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
So you can answer
That is not correct.
John O'Keefe told you that Colin used to flip him off, correct?
Not correct.
And say F you to him.
Never.
Colin used to cut through his yard.
Nope, that was Dylan.
You knew that John didn't like people cutting through his yard, correct?
No, I don't know that to be true.
So is it your testimony that John O'Keefe invited kids to cut through his lawn all the time?
I don't understand. Is that a question?
It was a question. Let me withdraw that and ask this. If O'Keefe is never cracked and he's the get off your lawn guy, are you denying that he doesn't like people cutting through his lawn?
Do you want me to, can I explain?
I just asked for an answer to my question. Mr. Lally will get up after I'm done, and I'm sure you can explain whatever you want.
So no, he's not a, no.
All right. You would agree with me that there was a time when John O'Keefe was not home that you and your wife Julie went to his house.
That is correct.
You entered onto his property, correct?
On his front property, yeah.
You like my logo? So the other day, so day 6, I also did a live stream. That was the first day that I had actually tested out my idea. And I was looking for like an AI software that would generate me a robe. Or no, not a robe. A judge with like blonde hair and like, you know, bowl haircut bangs with her robe on the floor and like covering up her body. Like, oh my God, my robe fell off. And I couldn't seem to find an AI generator that would understand what I was asking for. So then I just like started looking for like, you know, some type of cartoon. And the only one I could find is this one, which I think is like Shutterstock or something. So I had to put Bare Justice over, you know, the Shutterstock watermark because I couldn't find one that didn't have the watermark on it. So there it is. And in my opinion, if you look at him, let's see if I can grab him. In my opinion, he looks to me like Judge Schrader from Zachariah Anderson's trial. Look at him. My kids thought it was hysterical. So, Bare Justice, the stripped down trial testimony. I love the idea. It's a little tiny bit fast, and I think I made the gaps in between this pauses a little too short. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse trial and Mark Jensen's trial. Over the top with everything you ask. No, it just, like, it didn't even come close to coming up with what I wanted. You know, I was just looking for, like, you know, that, oh, you know what? I don't know how old everybody is who's watching right now, but, you know, I'm in my, let's just say, well, 50, I'm 54. And I remember there was this Maxine cartoon. She was like a cantankerous old chain-smoking lady that always had like bunny slippers and a robe, and she's just angry cartoon. Like, I was kind of looking for like something kind of along that line, and it was really difficult. And then I thought, oh great, now it's gonna, you know, I'm looking for like, I don't know. This was the best I could come up with. And actually, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. I can flip him around. I had him flip the other direction. I might flip him back.
Yes,
You had drinks in your hand.
correct.
You thought it
glad you
would be
like
funny
it.
to have a photo taken of you and your wife with drinks in your hand on his property, correct?
Correct.
You knew it would be funny because you knew it would annoy him, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, you can go ahead.
He was actually asking us to watch his house while he was away.
But that doesn't answer my question, which was, he didn't ask you to go onto his property with drinks in your hand and take a photo, correct?
He asked us to watch his property.
But again, in answer to my question, the answer is no, he did not ask us to go on his property and take pictures of ourselves with drinks in our hand, correct?
Yeah, he didn't ask me to send him a photo.
You would agree with me that Nevercracker wouldn't like a photo of somebody on his lawn with drinks in their hands, correct?
The cartoon character, Nevercracker?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain. Next question, please,
Yes.
Ms. Giannetti. Yes.
Mr. Albert, I place 2 photographs before you. If you take a look at those and tell the jury if you recognize what
great
they
idea.
depict.
I do.
What do those photos depict?
It's me and my wife straddling John's fence. We're giving a thumbs up in one of them and a smile in another one.
You say John's fence, so that's actually on John's property, correct?
Part of it is, yeah. I don't know what the easement is from the street to the fence as ownership goes, but yeah, I know the town owns a certain portion of it.
Would you agree with me that it was taken in April of,
I'm not sure when it was taken, but if that's what you have for a date, then
who took that picture?
that's a good question. I have no idea.
Where was your son Colin that night when you had that picture?
I have no idea.
Would you agree with me that you texted those photos, or somebody texted those photos, whether it was you or your wife Julie, to John O'Keefe?
Absolutely.
Are those a fair and accurate representation of photos that you took?
Yeah.
All right, I would offer those, Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
With the court's permission, may they be published for the jury? With regard to that first photo, is that, well, first of all, whose house is that in the background?
That's John's.
That is you on the right and your wife Julie on the
I
left?
find
Correct.
this Never cracker looks like.
That is also John's house in the background there?
Correct.
Again, that's you on the right and Julie on the left, correct?
Correct.
Take that. Would you agree with me that those photos give some context to the text that you sent him on January 28th when you were trying to get him to come out and you threatened to, quote, fuck up his lawn if he didn't come out that?
What do you mean give context to it?
In other words, here you are texting him photos of you and your wife on his lawn, correct?
Yes.
And that's a common theme that explains the January 28th text where you were threatening to fuck up his lawn, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I just have one more area that I want to cover, sir. You previously confirmed that when you walked in your door on January 29th of 2022, after coming home from the waterfall, your son Colin was not home, correct?
That's correct.
At that time, you had no personal knowledge of where he had been that night, correct?
That's correct.
Since that time, you know that he was at your brother Brian's house that night, Brian Albert,
That's correct.
your old home, correct?
Where I grew up. Yep.
You knew that address to be 34 Fairview Road.
Correct.
You knew that was the same house outside which John O'Keefe was found dead later that morning, correct?
Correct.
Just one other question, sir. When you spoke to Trooper Proctor on February 10th of 2020, you would agree with me that you never mentioned that Colin Albert was at your brother Brian's house that night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh,
I don't remember.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr.
Oh,
Albert,
it's
you were
from
asked
Monster
some questions
House.
about
Yeah,
the
my kids
selectmen.
hated that
Were you
movie.
selectmen at the time on January 20th?
No.
How long after that was it that you came?
Sometime in April that the election was over. April, second week in April, maybe?
That photograph that you were shown with respect to yourself and the former Chief Berkowitz of police, when was that?
It was a fundraiser. It was probably like 2 or 3 weeks before the election. January, February, March something, end of March, maybe?
Well after January 28th.
Yes.
You were asked some questions about your brother selling the house. Prior to your brother selling the house, you had sold your house, correct?
Correct.
And why was
Why was that? It just made it made sense for us. It was just this financial decision.
kids were getting older, is that correct?
Yeah,
One was in the Navy.
Yep.
Another was about to go to college.
correct.
What, if any, relation did that have to your brother selling?
So once he found out that I was selling
Objection.
once he found out I was selling my house, he decided that it might be a good idea for him to sell his house. His kids were getting older. So I gave him my real estate's number, the guy who sold my house.
That selling of the house, was that something that you had discussed with your brother prior to January 2022?
Yes,
With regard to your son Colin, when he came home that night, you indicated that it was about 10 minutes after. Now, was that 10 minutes after you arrived home or 10 minutes after you got in?
10 minutes after I jumped into bed.
With reference to
That's
your
never
son
cracker.
Colin, you came home, you saw him that night, correct?
When he came home,
Yes.
yeah, he just leaned his head in the door.
When he leaned into the door, did you, similar to what I had asked you about Mr. O'Keefe, did you observe any sort of injuries or anything like that?
Thank you for
Based on the
subscribing,
next day as
Tracy
well?
Yes.
Taylor.
Did you observe any injuries to him at any point
None.
in time? You mentioned that you went over to your brother Brian Albert's house and both he and Mr. Higgins, correct?
Correct.
As far as your interactions with both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins that following day, what, if any, injuries did you observe on them?
None.
With regard to the Nevercracker, what was the origination of that?
It's a joke. So my son Dylan, who is my littlest one, he was cutting across John's lawn one day, coming home from the school, walking. This is before John had a fence that went this way on Pleasant Street. So it would just cut off like a couple of minutes. He ran across John's lawn one day. This is my littlest son, who I don't even know at the time. He might have been 9, 10. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. John yelled something to him. Hey, kid, get off my lawn. So John was just making a joke. So Dylan got scared. He ran home and told my wife, Julie, and then Julie in turn called Jen maybe and said, hey, I just yelled at Dylan. And I think Jen reached out to John and John felt terrible. John came down the street. John asked what kind of candy Dylan liked. John brought Dylan a bag of candy and just said, hey, I was just kidding. It was just, so from that point on, we called him Mr. It was a joke between John. John thought it was funny.
As far has those photographs that you indicated on his fence sent to him when he was away. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was after he'd actually watched how he was away.
Yeah.
How did he respond to those
All
photographs?
right,
He
we're
thought it was
already at the
hilarious.
end.
We actually showed him and other people that photo too. They thought it was funny.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up, Mr. Allen.
One last question. So after you sent the text message as far as to come over here and then made the reference to his lawn, he then came over to walk.
Yeah, he came over after.
All right, you are all set.
Thank you.
All right. One down, one to go. So thank you for joining me. This is a new idea I came up with the other day since everybody is covering the Karen Read trial. And I wanted to watch it, but I also wanted to participate in some fashion. So I thought, I wonder if there's a way for me to like edit out and like strip it down to just like the testimony, take all the breaks out and sidebars and all of that. And I think this is the third day I've tried it. The first day I did a live stream and vetted it, and it was not great. So yesterday I worked on it, and I got better as the day went on. And now today, that last one was, in my opinion, pretty darn good. I mean, we cut like 2 hours and 20 minutes of testimony down to 59 minutes. This gal here, I think her testimony was over an hour. We got it down to 33 minutes and 12 seconds. So an hour and a half instead of 4. And that last one was a little fast. I don't think this one is as fast. And also I did not edit this one as much as the last one because I was really anxious to watch the trial. Hi, MLS. Are you here to help us vet the bare justice, where we take the trial footage and we strip it down to just the bits? Welcome.
Thank you. All
right, Mr. Lally, your next
This
witness,
is a little
please.
May we
loud.
approach before the next witness is called, Your Honor?
This is
All right,
a
so
lot
Mr. Lally, who's
louder.
your next witness?
We'll call Miss Julie Albert to the stand.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Oh, and
Julie
this one
Albert,
has-
Albert.
This one
And
has.
where do you live, ma'am?
I live at 22 Maple Street in Canton.
I don't like the sound
how
on this
long
one
have
as
you lived
much as that last one.
A little over 2 years,
And how long in total have you lived in Canton?
my whole life, 48 years.
And where did you live just prior to living on Maple?
I lived at 7 Meadows Avenue in Canton.
And how long?
Yeah,
period
the
of time did
audio
you
on
live
the
at
other
Seven
one
Meadows?
was much better.
Oh, 15 plus 20 years, about 20 years.
And do you have kids?
Yes, I have 3 boys.
And are you married?
Yes, I am.
What's your husband's name?
Christopher Albert.
And your 3 boys, how old?
My oldest, Christopher, is 25. My second son, Colin, is 20. And my youngest son, Dylan, is 16.
And do each of them, where do they live? Do they live
Although
with
Lally does
They all
sound
live with me.
louder.
Yes.
you? And your husband doesn't work?
Yes.
What is he?
For those of you who are watching right now, thank you for helping me vet this brilliant idea I came up with. And I'm going to say it's brilliant because I really don't think you're going to watch trials the normal way if I can work out the kinks of this idea. So thank you for joining me. Yeah, the audio on this, Lally is louder. He's been a challenge. For number one, he would speak so quietly that like you couldn't decipher what he was saying. It seems like I fixed that, but now it's kind of tinny sounding, sort of.
He owns a restaurant in Canton,
What's the name of the restaurant?
D&E Pizza,
And where is that located?
618 Washington Street.
Oh, and also this is the wife of the last guy, Christopher Albert.
Now, when you lived on Meadows Avenue, can you describe to the jury, if you know, about how many houses are on Meadows?
I would say maybe 8 on each side.
And Meadows comes out to a main road, is that correct?
Yes, Pleasant Street.
And while you were living on Meadows Avenue, did you have occasion to come to know
Oops, I
someone by
gotta
the
fix
name
the
of John?
name.
Yes, I did.
And where did John live in relation to you?
John's house was at the top of the street, and there's 2 houses. There was 2 houses between John's house and my house.
And if you recall, about how long did you know John O'Keefe, or when did he move into Meadows?
I think he moved in 2017-ish, maybe. And I've probably known him since maybe 2019.
And how would you describe sort of your relationship with John?
We were friendly. We were neighbors. I'd see him all the time coming in and out of the street, and because he's at the top of the street when I pulled out of the street, and we were friendly.
And in addition to you knowing Mr. O'Keefe, were there other sort of people that also knew him?
Yes.
Who were some of those?
Well, I knew John through Jennifer McCabe.
And who is Jennifer McCabe?
She's one of my closest friends.
Now,
Oh,
you knew that
that's
John had,
interesting.
2 children that he was guardian for?
Yes.
You were familiar with both his niece and his nephew?
Yes.
Now, at some point through Mr. O'Keefe, did you come to know somebody by the name of Karen Read?
Yes.
When about was it that you met Ms. Read?
Maybe in like 2021, pulling in and out of the street. If they were outside, if a couple times out socially, probably in 2021, I would say.
And if you could, just so we're clear, do you see Ms. Read in the courtroom?
Yes. Between her lawyers right over there.
Now, on some social occasions that you were talking about, when you would see them out, do you have occasion to socially interact with Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read?
Yes.
Is that something that like you and your husband did together, or was it more?
No,
See,
a
he
group
doesn't
setting.
edit as well.
And with reference to, did you have occasions where you would socially hang out or interact with Mr. O'Keefe in which Ms. Read wasn't there?
I can only honestly remember one time, and that was, I don't even know if they were together at the time.
And had you ever socially interacted or spent time with Ms. Read separate and apart from Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
Now, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, do you recall that day?
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, I didn't edit this one as much as I did the last one. If you're just tuning in now, check out either rewind all the way back, or I have it on my YouTube channel, just uploaded separately. The Christopher Albert one, her husband, that we just watched. That one was way better. I did edit a lot more stuff out of that one. Lally here says now before he asks the question, so I took all those out, or he'll say and pause. I took those out. This one I didn't edit as much. And maybe that's not important. I mean, that probably only shaves off like a minute. But I think the sound was better on that other one, so I'm making a note.
Do you recall what day of the week it was?
Um,
And anything did you have for that particular week?
Next day was my nephew's birthday. So we were all, a bunch of us were going to go out that night, night before to bar in Canton.
By the night before his birthday?
Yes.
And that nephew's name?
Brian Jr.
And if you know about how old was he turning, or how, let me start with this, how old is he now?
24,
So just turned 24 a few months ago?
January. Yep.
And so he would have been turning, what, 22 at that point?
Yes.
You say we had plans to sort of, who's,
His mother, Nicole, my niece, Caitlin, and a couple of Brian's friends.
now, and you mean Brian Jr.'s friend?
Yes.
And so Brian Albert Jr. has a mother named Nicole Albert, is that correct?
Yes.
And how is she related to you?
She's my sister-in-law. Our husbands are brothers.
So your husband Christopher has a brother?
Brian
Brian.
Sr.
For lack
Yep.
of a better term. Husband Christopher, how many siblings does he have?
6.
And Brian is the
Oldest, yes.
And so there were plans to go out that evening, the day before Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday, right?
Yes.
And what were the plans? What did they sort of consist
We were just going to go to Waterfall.
of? Is Waterfalls,
It's bar in Canton on Washington Street.
and from your husband's pizza shop at D&E to Waterfall, about how far away are the two from each other?
Close. I mean, steps maybe. You can very, very close.
Same side of the street or
No, opposite sides.
Now, when it came to that day, where did you go? Did you go to the waterfall first or
Edit
somewhere
out
else?
the
or-
car.
I went to my sister-in-law Nicole's house to pick her up.
And you know where your sister-in-law and your brother-in-law lived?
34 Fairview, where they lived, 34 Fairview Road.
That was somewhere that you had been numerous occasions before.
Yes.
And when you arrived at Fairview Road, inside the house,
I think I went inside for a moment. Yeah. To wait.
and do you
Okay.
know who one did you see in there that you knew or recognized or didn't?
My niece Caitlin was in there. My nephew Brian. I don't recall. I don't recall who else was in there.
I wonder what it
Yeah, she
sounds
was
like
ready
if
to
I
leave.
slow it down a
Yep.
little bit.
And when you left, I'm using sort of the plural. So you drove, is that correct?
I drove. Yep.
Oops,
And,
too
anyone else
fast,
with you?
wrong way.
My sister-in-law and Caitlin, my niece, and Brian did not end up coming with us.
And so your nephew Brian, for whom you had initially.
Oh, see,
made
that's where the
plans to
robot
go out to
comes in.
celebrate And then come.
Correct.
And why was that?
I don't think he was feeling up to it.
Okay, so I'm making a note. See, like in the editing software, you can like increase and decrease by like 1/10%. So I'm wondering if I like lower it to like 0.9 or 0.8 because when this moves really fast, almost a little too fast, in my opinion.
And if you know about what time was it that you picked your sister-in-law and your niece up and then went to work?
I don't remember exactly, but I would probably say between maybe 7:30 and 8, 7:30, like 7:30 maybe.
And you arrive at the waterfall, you go in.
Mhm.
If you could just explain for the jury, sort of walk into the door of the waterfall, where was it that the three of you went?
When you walk into the door, there's a couple high top tables in front of you, and we just sat down at a high top table right when you walk through the door.
Now, from your experience either that evening or prior evenings, on certain nights, does the waterfall have any kind of entertainment?
Yeah, they always have, it's different. They have bands.
And from your recollection, was there a band there that night?
Yes, there was.
And do you recall where you were seated in relation to the band?
I was sitting at the end of the high top table closest to the door that you walk in, and the band was to the right of me against a wall in kind of an alcove, like a little against the wall.
And when you went there, was the band already sort of up and playing, or did that happen later?
I think they set up while we were there. I think.
And so initially, when you go there, do you go there and just have drinks, or did you eat something, or what?
We ate, and yeah.
While you were there, as far as sort of the meal portion of it, was there anyone else that joined you?
I know my boyfriend Tristan Morris came. I don't remember exactly when it was during that, but I know he was there.
Wait, I thought she was
And
the
then
husband.
during the meal part, I don't think during the meal part anyone else. I don't think.
So you
I
recall
thought
as
she
far as
was
the meal
Chris
part was
Albert's
concerned,
wife.
your sister-in-law
Oh, yes, I was
called and
wrong.
stayed
I
with
thought
her.
wrong.
Correct.
And Morris, did he stay for any extended period of time, or when was it that he left?
I know he stayed for a little bit, but I honestly can't remember what time exactly he left.
Now, your husband, was he working on that day?
Yes, he was.
And had you been in communication with him as to where you were going to be?
Yes.
And so the plan was basically for him to meet you at the waterfall when he was done with work.
Correct. Yes.
And if you know about what time was it that your husband, Christopher, came over to the waterfall?
Maybe not 9:30, 10. Maybe. I don't
And
remember
want you to
exactly.
guess, just,
Yeah.
You know, time around 9:30 or so, your husband, Christopher, comes over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And what things did he do when he got there? Let me ask
Came
you,
in. Yeah.
Came in, did he get anything to eat, anything to drink?
Yeah. He probably ordered a drink and just stood by the table, I would think.
And the people in your group, were you drinking that night?
Yes.
Do you recall specifically what you had to drink?
Go ahead. Just a couple glasses of wine.
And do you recall specifically what he had that night?
What he would drink is Miller Lite.
And that's sort of typically what he would drink when he
Yes.
was out?
Yes.
And your sister-in-law, Nicole, recall what she was drinking?
I would assume White Claw.
And same question with regard to your niece, Kate.
Yes. Probably White Claw as well.
Now, while you were there, who, if any, after your husband came in,
Mhm.
who, if anyone else, sort of came in and joined the group that you were with?
My brother-in-law, Brian Albert, and his friend, Brian Higgins.
And obviously, you know brother-in-law Brian Albert, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
thank you. Just have to answer obviously. So, did you know Mr. Higgins as well?
Yes.
And how did you know Mr. Higgins?
I just know him from being friends with my brother-in-law.
So you knew him just sort of through your brother-in-law Brian, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And you know when they arrived in relation to when your husband Christopher arrived?
I don't recall.
At some point after, correct?
Yes.
Then after arrived, if anyone else, do you recall sort of arriving and joining in your group?
McCabe and Matt McCabe. And there was a couple, don't even know their name, Colakitis. They arrived. I don't know their first names. John and Karen arrived shortly after that.
And just so we can clear up people, as far as Jennifer McCabe, you've already mentioned her, and Matthew, was that her husband?
Yes.
And the other couple that you were talking about, or sort of their names, have you ever met them before?
No. Nope.
Anybody that you're particularly friends with or anything like that?
No. I know them, who they are, from seeing them maybe at a sporting event or something. Never been introduced to them.
And when you say sort of sporting events in relation to conviction one,
If they were at like a basketball game and I was at a game, like seeing them around, I'm assuming probably sporting events, probably a basketball game.
I'm sure it's pretty well understood with this. I just want to clarify. So when you say sporting events, these are kids'
Sporting events, yes.
And so which kids' sporting events would you be at that you would see this couple that you didn't know? Kids or something?
From McCabe's kids.
So you would go to sporting events with Jennifer McCabe's kids and see this couple?
Yes.
And you know about how long after this Albert and Mr. Higgins arrived, Cabe's and this other couple arrived?
I don't remember
But
exactly.
after Mr. Albert and Mr. Higgins, correct? Now then you mentioned Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read came in at some point as well?
So
And-
you have to make sure you say yes or no, okay? The other thing you say, I assume or I guess, don't answer. You don't know either.
If you know, about what time was it that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read?
Before 11 o'clock?
And with reference to when Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read came into the waterfall, where were you in relation to sort of high top table that you were
I was at the top of the high top table closest to the door.
And when they came in, where did Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant go?
John walked in and said hello and kept on walking, I think, to the bar. And Karen came in and stopped at the table to talk for a minute.
And during the time that she stopped at the table to talk for a minute, what anything did she do?
She opened her jacket and had a glass and pulled the glass out and started drinking.
David says, I hate her face and she sounds worse. Yeah, she does sound worse than the Christopher one. So I'll have to work on that. The Christopher one is pretty good. I mean, I did a little bit more editing with that one, but I must have clicked an audio button in that one that I forgot to click in this one because this is only day 3 of me trying this new idea. I hate her face is funny. That's from the Zachariah Anderson trial. Actually, I got my merch behind me on my chair. I was also going to say, has anybody else noticed that these people all kind of look the same? The last witness yesterday, I forgot what her name was, but yesterday I didn't get to really watch the trial because I was too busy trying to figure this out. And but when I was recording it on the other computer, I'm like, wait, did they bring Katie McLaughlin back?
Drink.
And as far as the drink in the glass, what, if anything, did you observe as far as color or anything? Like
Clear.
that? And glass that she had, could you see so the clear liquid inside it?
I think I still have my I hate her face stinger that I had. I'm not sure where I put it.
How much of the glass was full of that?
I don't recall.
And she placed it on the table, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was your reaction to that?
I think I laughed and said, made a comment like easy or something because she walked in with the glass.
Did you know where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read had been coming from prior to them getting to the waterfall?
Yes.
And where were they coming from?
CF
I got my
McCarthy.
stickers
Familiar with that establishment?
Yes.
And where is that in relation to the waterfall?
Underneath my
Maybe
Fox
200
coat, I
steps
have
right
a
next to my husband's
hoodie and
restaurant.
a tank top.
So
Fine.
on the same side of Washington Street as your husband's restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. In the same vicinity from D&E to Waterfall, CF?
Yes.
Now, over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to see Mr. O'Keefe? He was at a bar, he had something to drink, is that correct?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. Over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to observe what do you think Mr. O'Keefe was?
No, I don't believe. I left very shortly after they got there.
And so you left fairly shortly after they arrived?
Yes.
Okay. And if you know about how much time are we talking?
Maybe 10, 15 minutes.
And why is it that you left?
I had a terrible migraine.
From the van being so close?
Yes.
And when you left, where did you go?
Okay, for those of you who have migraines or migraine sufferer, since I have some new subscribers, the trick is ask your doctor for some amitriptyline. I can put it in the comments section. It's a very cheap, old pharmaceutical, and basically it acts as like a prophylactic with headaches. I used to have what I thought was called like a really bad headache every afternoon. That was terrible. Amitriptyline. I'll find it and put it in the chat. And so I was finally, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, I went to my doctor. She's almost done. She's only got like 20 minutes left. And then we're finished for the day. I mean, this was really fast. So anyway, I finally went to the doctor and addressed it. And I said, I don't know if it's like a migraine or what it is. And he put me on my family practice doctor, nortriptyline. And then when I talked to my other doctor, I told her about it because, you know, you have to update your medication. And she said, oh, well, you should actually try amitriptyline because that's like the more pure form of it. So I switched. It's really cheap and it's old. And you just take a little bit, like you start at 10 milligrams, and then you go to 20, and then you go to 30 milligrams. You don't want to take too much of it. And you take it at night. It helps you sleep. And I went from and then my doctor gave me Imitrex, which also comes as a generic. It's Suma something or other. But with Imitrex, you only get 8 of them per month, because you're not supposed to take it more than like twice a week, or you end up getting rebound headaches. And it only works on migraines, and it only works on cluster headaches. So I wasn't sure, and I said, hey, can I at least try some Imitrex? Because actually, now that I think of it, my neighbor down the street had given me a shot one time. I'm like, I gotta go home. I have like the worst headache. And she's like, come on inside. And she gave me like a shot. And so I asked her, I'm like, Pamela, what is that? What was that shot that you gave me? So anyway, so I told the doctor, I said, don't hate me, but my neighbor gave me an injection of Imitrex one time, and it was gone in like 5 minutes, the headache. So he gave me that, and I bet within, because that nortriptyline, you got to kind of, or amitriptyline is what I take now, but even with the nortriptyline, you have to like start off low and go higher. And I went from a headache basically every day in like the mid-afternoon to now I get I think maybe 4 times a month I have to take my Imitrex, because I get 8 Imitrex a month and I don't use all 8 anymore. That's how amazing that amitriptyline is. And then with the Imitrex, actually 2 of my daughters are now on that too. The Imitrex. They don't take the amitriptyline because they don't get headaches. But if your doctor gives you some Imitrex and it works, that's a migraine. I used to think it was a bad headache. It is. It's absolutely amazing. It has changed. Like, I started this channel probably 5 months after I solved that problem. If I wouldn't have solved that problem, I never would have been able to do this. And now I get them, like I said, maybe like 4 times in a whole month. And usually I get like 2 days in a row. And with that Imitrex, you have to make sure to take it as soon as like you get like you can tell it's coming on. Don't be a hero and wait. But it took like 3 or 4 months of me taking the all 8 Imitrex per month until that amitriptyline. So there. So for those of you who have migraines, and I'm finding a lot of people get them, or they're like me and think it's just a bad headache. No, it's not a bad headache. And if your doctor goes ahead and gives you some Imitrex and you try it and it doesn't work, it means that you don't have a migraine, and it doesn't work on like a normal headache or a hangover. Actually, it's really weird because about 10 minutes after I take it, my whole nose cleans up. So I'm wondering if it's like connected somehow.
Oh.
And when
I'll
you
put it in
got
the
home,
chat.
as far as your children on that,
Mhm.
who was home, who was out? If you know?
My youngest son was home, and my oldest son didn't live at home. He lived in California at the time, and my middle son was not home.
And so your oldest son, Christopher, he
He was in the Navy, and he was stationed in San Diego. Yes.
And so your middle son, Colin, he was out. Did you know where he was?
Oh,
Yes.
pause.
He was at, I believe.
So this lady, because she just talked about her son that's in the Navy, and Christopher's son is in the Navy. So her and Christopher must be divorced. And then she's got a new friend.
His friend Michael Leonetti's house.
And at some point, did you learn that Colin had gone from that person's house to somewhere else?
Yes.
Is this him communicating with you?
Yes.
And that other place that he went to?
Hey, man, the beer is the destination.
Oh, come on now. I'm in.
The waterfall district.
Mhm.
So while you were at the waterfall, obviously you see.
Oh, I think
Mr.
I
O'Keefe and
videotaped it
Streamlined.
on
Do you
Google.
recall what Mr. O'Keefe was wearing?
I know he had a hat on. He had jeans on, and he had something with a hood.
And from your observations, did you ever see him with like a winter coat or jacket or anything like that?
I did not.
And with regard to the clothing that you observed him wearing, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition of that clothing? And torn, was it disheveled, anything like that?
No, nothing that I remember.
And with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, as far as his appearance, what, if anything, did you observe about him as far as injuries or anything?
Nothing.
Now, with reference to your group as far as at the waterfall, how would you describe sort of overall demeanor or tone of the group and what was going on then?
Just normal. I thought it was just normal. Sitting listening to a band.
At least during the time that you were there were no sort of arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
Nope, nothing.
And specifically to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Read,
Mhm.
while you were there, during the short time that you were there, when they were there, did you observe anything as far as any arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Now, at the time, so during that time between when they arrived, you mentioned that John went up to the bar, correct?
Yes.
And where did the defendant go?
She talked to me at the top of the table for a few minutes, and then I believe she made her way down the table to either Jennifer McCabe or the couple that was at the end of the table to speak with.
And was it during that period of time that you had enough of the migraine and went home?
Yes, I left very, very shortly after that.
Now, during the time that you were there and you were speaking with the defendant down sort of your end of the table,
So, Julie, if you were on the YouTubes tonight trying to find your testimony and you happen to run across CrimeSpies, Bare Justice, the stripped down version of your testimony. Hopefully you caught what I was just talking about with that amitriptyline in conjunction with Imitrex.
what, if anything, was discussed as far as where to go, what to do after the war?
You know that I do remember, I'm sorry, that Karen had asked if we could go back to D&E, my husband's store, and make pizza, because that's something we frequently do if we're out at the end of the night, if we're
Oh
hungry.
my God, I'm so hungry.
Was that something that you had discussed with Ms. Reed either on that date or on a prior date?
I believe that's just that we went there once, and she said next time she'll have to come with us.
Was that something that was discussed as a possibility or something that was going to happen that night?
I think right away, I just wasn't going to do that because I wasn't feeling well. And I think I might have said, talk to Chris, because I wasn't going to do it.
And is that something that she mentioned over the course of that evening once, more than once, or something else?
Just once to me.
So when you get home, at some point, the rest of your family came home at some point in the evening, correct?
Yes,
And came home first. Your husband Christopher or your son Colin?
my husband.
You know what time that was?
I want to say about after 12, maybe around there,
So sometime
around 12:10. Yes.
And what do you recall specifically about when your husband Christopher came home?
He came upstairs to my room. He was shivering because it was cold out, and he immediately went to the bathroom, got undressed, and got into bed.
And your son Colin?
Yes.
And about how long was it after your husband came home that your son Colin?
15 minutes.
And you essentially waiting up for him?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Is that sort of common practice?
Yes. I do not go to bed until my kids are home.
And is there another common practice as far as when your kids come home, where do they go when they first come in?
They immediately will always come in the door, maybe grab a water out of the fridge and come upstairs and give me a kiss goodnight and tell me that they're home.
Now, did that happen on this occasion?
Yes.
And so Colin came into your room at some point?
He came right upstairs. Yes.
And when Colin came into your room and came upstairs, did you have occasion to observe him as far as talk to him? Obviously?
Yes, we talked for a minute. He asked me if I was feeling better. Talked for a moment.
And during that conversation that you had with Colin, same similar to what I'd asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, what injuries or anything did you observe on your son Colin?
None.
And fair to say the next day at some point you talked to and had interaction with your son?
Yes.
And what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe?
None.
So I know this is sort of hard, so wait till Mr. Lally finishes his question.
Okay.
Answering, okay?
Mhm.
Now, after your son Colin came home, eventually went to bed, is that right?
Yes.
And your attention to the next morning, Saturday morning of the 29th. About what time was it that you woke up?
I woke up about 8-ish.
And with regard to your nephew, Brian Jr., whose birthday was now on the 29th, what, if any, sort of tradition do you have with respect to him this birthday?
Every year on his birthday, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I get him 6 donuts and I bring them to the house and I leave them there with a card before he gets up. So when he wakes up, they're there. I've been doing it for years.
And is that what your intention was on this morning as well?
Yes.
And is that what you did on that?
Yes.
Now, when you woke up, probably like most people, at some point did you look at your phone?
Yes.
And when you looked at the screen to your phone, what, if anything, did you see?
I had a missed call from my friend Jen McCabe.
And was there any sort of patient in regard to the missed call as to what time that missed call had come in?
It was 5:55 maybe.
So sometime early
Morning, yes.
And beyond the missed call, was there any other sort of stamp or notification on the phone as far as voicemail, text message?
Nope. I'm sorry. No, there was not.
Not from Ms. McCabe, correct? And not from anybody else?
Correct.
And at any point in time on that morning over the phone, did you speak with Ms. McCabe?
No, I did not.
And did you call it, so you didn't call it back or anything like that?
I did not.
And so after you wake up, at some point you go to Dunkin' Donuts and get the 6 donuts?
Yes.
Why did they have to talk
And where
about
did you go?
food? I'm starving.
I drove to 34 Fairview.
And when you arrived at 34 Fairview, where did you park in relation to the house?
I pulled into the driveway.
And when you came up to the house and you were driving to the house, at this point it was weather like this.
It was coming down. The snow was coming down pretty good.
And with reference to the house, what anything did you notice out of the ordinary with regard to the house or the street or anything else?
Jenna McCabe's car was in the driveway.
And as far as any other vehicles on the street or anything like that, what was going on at that time?
I don't.
Nothing you can recall?
No.
Well, what time was this that you got there?
9 o'clock, 8:30.
And when you get there, you pull in the driveway.
Great success. I'm glad it's memorable. I kind of wanted something that would grab people's attention. So I'm really glad that you're picking up what I was trying to put down. Sometimes it only makes sense to me. Okay, we're almost done.
I opened my car door. I got out to walk to the car in front of me to leave the donuts and card inside my nephew Brian's car. And Brian Albert came to the door. Brian Albert Sr. came to the door and he told me to come in, asked me to come in for a second. And I said that I didn't need to. And he said, I'm just leaving this gift
Isn't
for
that
Brian Jr. And he said, no, just come in for a second. So I went into the house.
And when you walk into 34 Fairview Road on that morning,
Mhm.
if anyone else was there?
Nicole Albert, Brian Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, and Matt McCabe
And where were they in relation to the house?
in the kitchen.
And,
So did we wait,
anything, did they tell
did we know that Brian Higgins was there in the morning?
you at that time?
Question mark.
When I first walked in, nothing. Everyone was just sitting there, and I was looking around, and everyone was visibly upset. And I asked, what's going on? And another maybe 30 seconds went by, and Jen said, something's happened to John. And I said, John, she said, John O'Keefe. And I said, is he okay?
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow it.
I said, is he okay? And she said, we don't know. And that was that.
And after hearing that information, how long were you at your brother and sister-in-law's house that night?
Probably about half hour, 45 minutes, maybe.
And to go from there.
I went home to wake my husband up to let him know what had happened.
And at some point after you go home and wake up your husband, where did you and your husband go?
We went back to third. I woke up my husband, told him what had happened, and
I
we
thought
went
she
back to
said she
Fairview.
had a boyfriend. I'm so
And the second time that
confused.
you had gone back to Fairview,
Mhm.
how long period of time were you there that day?
Maybe
I would
she
say
has a
probably
husband and a
half hour,
boyfriend.
not long.
And then after that half hour or so, where'd you go after that?
Back home to my house.
During either of those occasions, when you were at 34 Fairview Road on the morning of the 29th, you had occasion to talk and observe Brian Albert Sr., correct?
Yes.
And similar to questions that I asked with regard to Mr. O'Keefe and your son Colin, if any injuries or anything out of place did you note with respect to Brian Albert Sr.?
Nothing that I saw.
Same question with respect to Mr. Higgins, as far as you made observations and spoke at least in the same room as him on that morning?
Yes.
And what anything did you observe as far as injuries or anything else on Mr. Higgins?
Nothing.
Now, when you woke up your husband that next morning, your other two sons, being Colin and Dylan, they were at home still?
Yes, they were at home still asleep.
And with regard to when you went to Fairview, came back with your husband, went back to Fairview, and then came back again, were they still asleep?
I don't remember.
You recall, well, let me put it this way. As far as your sons, did either of your sons come back with you to Fairview Road
Mhm.
that day?
No, they did not.
And do you recall whether or not either Colin or Dylan was awake when you left the second time to go to Fairview?
I don't.
At some point, a few days after this, did you have occasion to meet with a couple troopers from the state police?
Yes, I did. They came to my home.
When you say they, how many of them?
There were two.
And you spoke to them that day in reference to what you had observed at the waterfall, everything you did?
Yes, I did.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Also, like
Just one last question. When you came,
when you said, "Can I have one moment, Your Honor?" With Christopher's, those I took out. Like I said, I did not edit hers as much as I edited Christopher's, thinking, well, I'm just going to see if all this extra work on Christopher's makes a difference, and it does. So I still really like this. It's a little fast.
Came over to Fairview Road that first time with the donuts. As far as the inside of the house, what anything did you observe as far as the condition of the home or anything about the home that seems abnormal or out of place or off, the evening before when you were there? Nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Minetti?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Albert.
Good afternoon.
And I did notice some of her responses to question okay, so this Lally guy has made editing such a challenge because he does not talk loud enough. So the volume comes in hot for the judge and comes in hot for the witnesses. But for that other, for the lectern, it comes in like random. And I'm not skilled enough to like fix that. I mean, I can normalize the loudness somewhat. Hi, Hope 8 Fear. Hello. I saw Gazella had something about Adam Montgomery, but I wanted to get this up. We are vetting a new idea I had. It's called Bare Justice, where we strip it down to just the testimony. And this is the third day I've tried to edit it, and we're almost done. And let me tell you, Christopher's is way better than hers is. I did not edit hers as much, but hopefully you like the idea. Actually, Gazella, she does like a defluffing of some of the trials that she does. This is like taking the defluffing to like the next level. I mean, this is like there's no pauses in between any of the questions. But I didn't edit the scales as much as I did Christopher's. But it's still really good. You just got home. Well, welcome home. I didn't get any sleep last night because my daughter's kitten decided to like keep me up all night. Oh.
You and I have never met, correct? I just want to pick up.
Chris was way better. Thank you for letting me know. Like I said, I wanted to hear for myself if what I did on Christopher's made a difference. And because, when you do stuff, I'm after a while, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, do I really have to do all of this? Or is it going to really make a difference? So I thought, you know what, since there's only 2 witnesses today, let's see what happens. And it was a lot better.
Pick up on a question that, and an answer that Mr. Lally asked you.
So my daughter's kitten, we have never had her fixed. Number 1, she just turned 2. She's Poppy. She's the one that's in the outro, the little kitten. So, but she, one of our older cats, we have 2 sister cats that are like 9 or 10. And, and one of the older cats, Lulu, her and my daughter's kitten Poppy get along perfect. Like they play and it's wonderful. The other one, Lila, they're named after my grandma's. Lila, she mauls Poppy. So you have to keep them separate. So if my daughter, spends the night at like boyfriend's house or, friend's house or whatever, then I usually take Poppy with me so she's not lonely because she's just a baby. And but she's in heat, and so she's wild. And then number 2, she likes to fight the cat that doesn't get along with her. I know this is a really long story, but they fight underneath the door, so the door shakes. And then the way my room is like situated, like she'll be sleeping next to me and like she'll hear or smell something, and then she like jumps. She doesn't like jump over me. She like jumps on me, like on purpose. So last night I'm just like, oh my God, I can't take it. I mean, I had like 2 hours of sleep. Somebody said they had turtles. My next house, I'm having no pets. We had fish, they've died. Our hamsters have died. I cry for days when the hamsters die. So no more hamsters. The triplets are graduating in a month. And the next house, I'm going to have a nice dog. And no cats. I'm actually allergic to cats, too.
You respond.
Oh, so she's in heat. And So she's just kind of like, she rubs on everything. So I told my daughter this morning, I'm like, I have to get up and I've had like 2 hours of sleep. So can you please find out like when, get the details, like what's a good timing to bring her in? The other cats are females too, and we had them fixed when they were little. And I don't know, for some reason we just never got around to it with this one.
He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later.
I'm going to
correct?
rewind because we just started
February 10th
cross-examination
of
and I was
2022
talking and now
that
I'm kind of
About
zoned
home
out.
that he was abnormal or out of place or off, the image.
of state troopers. Do you recall that? They asked you and that you.
Okay, here.
Thank you. Good
Cross-exam.
afternoon, Ms. Albert.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, correct? I just wanted to pick up on a question that, in an answer that Mr. Lally asked you and that you responded to. He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later, correct? February 10th of 2022, that 2 state troopers came to speak with you and your husband, Chris, correct?
Correct.
And we're talking about 13 days later, almost 2 weeks later, correct?
If that was the date, yes, correct.
Prior to February 10th, no investigator from this case bothered to you or your husband, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the 2 investigators who did come, you know them quite well, did you not?
I knew them. I wouldn't say quite well, but I knew them.
Okay, when you say knew them,
Him. I'm sorry, him.
okay. And who was it that you knew?
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor, the brother of one of your close friends, correct?
Correct.
Close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
I am.
And by the way, your maiden name is Daniels, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you have a sister, Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you would
She her
agree
brother
that
Jack.
Jill Daniels is also lifelong best friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Yes, she is.
And in terms of your relationship with Courtney Proctor, you socialize with her, do you not?
Objection.
Do you?
Occasionally, yes.
Go out for drinks with her, correct?
Yes.
You've attended parties with her, correct?
Yes.
You've also provided childcare for her children, correct?
Yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
So, Ms. Albert, you provided
See,
childcare for
that
Courtney
was way
Proctor's children.
choppier than the
Objection.
other one too.
You need a time frame, Ms. Stephen.
Have you ever provided childcare for Courtney Proctor's children?
Objection.
So you need a time frame.
Before of 2022, did you provide childcare for Courtney Proctor's children?
Yes.
When?
2019.
1 year?
Yeah, it was COVID. And then when COVID happened and everything shut down, I wasn't helping her any longer. And then occasionally after, I would help just on an as needed basis after COVID.
And during that year of 2019, how often did you watch her children?
2 days a week.
And she had a boy and a girl?
Correct.
What were their names?
Jack and Caroline.
And Jack and Caroline were Trooper Proctor's niece and nephew, correct?
Yes.
The Proctor trusted you with the care of their children, correct?
Objection.
It's sustained as asked.
You know that Michael Proctor is a state trooper, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he also was from Canton?
Yes.
You knew his wife, Elizabeth Proctor?
Yes.
And you were also aware that Courtney Proctor had recommended you to also watch Michael.
Embrace your power.
Oh,
Intimacy.
no.
The new Silky Intimates.
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son was a ring bearer.
I think I was
Objection.
videotaping it in
Right, so we'll sustain that through this witness.
Chrome, not
You've spent at Michael
Brave.
Proctor's childhood home, have you not?
which I should say, if you also get hit with those ads when you're watching YouTube, just use Brave browser. I forgot to turn on the Brave browser.
Yes.
You've been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
May we approach? How many times have you been to the Proctor's?
So I've added to my list too, like when they have to approach, I'm going to make sure to take those out because like Christopher's didn't have any of those in it. Or like when they say, "Can I have just one moment?" I'm going to take those out. And also, I really got to find the setting for when I take out the like hesitations and pauses. There's like a parameter I think you can set. So I'm going to make the parameter just a little bit bigger because sometimes when she says yes, you're just hearing like the S, like the y part gets cut out. It's pretty good, in my opinion.
Say maybe a dozen?
And you've certainly taken your children there as well?
Yes.
Colin has been to the Proctor's pool?
Yes.
And you've seen Michael Proctor's mother and father at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You've seen Courtney Proctor and her husband at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You are very close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
How would you define very?
Well, I guess I'd ask you to define very close. Do you think you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No,
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you
No,
like
go-
it, Hope
go
Made
ahead, next
Fear? I hope
question.
you do.
Got your answer.
I didn't hear the answer.
Go ahead, repeat that.
Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Okay. You talk regularly, correct?
Yes.
Each other, correct?
Yes.
You also talk by phone.
Very rarely.
I think
is
I
it
got to move
fair
the
to
closed
say
captioning
very
box
rarely
too.
you talk to
Phone.
Courtney Proctor by phone?
Usually it's text.
But you stand by that testimony that you talk to Courtney Proctor very rarely by phone?
Do we have a time frame? Do you mean now or do you mean then?
Let me ask you this. Between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, did you only speak rarely with Courtney Proctor?
I don't recall.
Were you using Courtney Proctor as an intermediary to communicate with Michael Proctor about this case?
Objection.
No, I was not.
Are you aware that between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, you and Courtney Proctor spoke by phone 67 times?
Ooh, how do we know
Objection.
that?
Were you aware of that?
No, I don't know the exact count.
Do you deny that you spoke 67 times?
I don't deny it, but I don't
Between when and
recall
when?
the exact times.
Okay, so you don't deny that
Just a moment. I want to go back and see how many.
you 67. Do you deny that you spoke 60 February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022?
Oh, that's quite a
You
bit.
and Courtney Proctor spoke by phone 67 times?
Objection.
Okay, so February, so that's what? 7 months? 10 times a month?
I don't
I mean, is
recall
that
the exact
unusual?
times.
Okay, so you don't deny that you 67 times. You still want to maintain your testimony that you only talked very rarely with Courtney Proctor during that time period.
I just don't remember the exact amount of times.
Well, you know that
So
my
like
client,
every 3
Karen Read,
days on
was
average?
arrested in connection with this case on February 1st of 2022. Do you not?
I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor that date for 12 minutes by phone, correct?
I don't recall exactly.
1st of 2022. Do you not?
I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor that date for 12 minutes by phone.
Okay, so
correct?
that was 2 days
I don't
after.
recall exactly.
So February 1st, and he was found the early morning hours of the 29th, so 3 days later.
I don't remember exactly.
May I approach?
Sure.
Before I approach, your memory is exhausted to whether you spoke to Courtney Proctor that day, and if so, how long the two of you spoke?
Yes.
I'm showing you a document with a number of,
Just show it to us.
right, no, I just wanted to point out which one that I'm pointing out. So the third, I was going to say a number of lines. The third line down, if you would take a look at that date and time and see if that refreshes your memory about whether and how long you spoke to Courtney Proctor on February 1st, 2022.
Can you see that or do you need glasses?
No, I can see it.
I do have a pair of readers that I need as well if you need to borrow them.
Yes, if I could.
Of course.
Thank you. I
And,
left mine downstairs.
I just got these and it's like. the
Mr.
middle-
Yannetti, just bring them up, please.
It took me a while to figure them out, but anyway.
Thank you.
I
I
don't like
appreciate
this
it.
judge.
It's the third line.
Third line down. Yes, I see it. I don't recall this.
Okay. And you say, having seen this record, it does not refresh your memory that you spoke to Courtney Proctor for,
Don't, it does not refresh your memory. That's what you have.
did Courtney Proctor tell you the day of my client's arrest on February 1st that she had been the case with her brother that day?
Objection.
Sustain.
Did you speak to Courtney Proctor that day in any fashion?
What day exactly?
The day of my client's arrest on February 1st of 2022.
That was on the sheet you just gave me?
It was.
Well, I did, obviously, if it was on that sheet.
And when you talked to her, Did she tell you that she had discussed the case with her brother?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you notified that Karen was going to be arrested?
Objection.
Sustained.
What did you discuss?
I don't recall.
The next day, February 2nd of 2022, was the day.
Okay, I was going to make a note. You know how they say I don't recall? So I think it was Detective John that had said, you know, if you find yourself as a witness, if you say I don't remember or I don't recall, then you can always recall it later without perjuring yourself. I think that's how he described it. Now, I'm assuming it was Ian Runkle, because I try to catch his nightly recap of this. And I'm pretty sure he had mentioned the fact that, you know, the word I don't recall is used so much with a lot of these witnesses, especially like when we were in the first responder. I think it was actually Tuesday when that lieutenant, or I think it was Lieutenant Link, the one that did the scooped up with the evidence with the red Solo cups, that guy. I'm pretty sure Ian had said something like, you know, when a witness says, I don't recall, it's your job to, like, make them recall, basically.
That my
Instead of
client
just,
was
like,
evacuated
walking away
Stoughton
from it.
District Court. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor 3 times that day before my client's publicly televised arraignment at 9 a.m. Did you not?
Again, I don't remember.
After the arraignment, you spoke to her again for 27 minutes, beginning at 10:58 a.m. Do you not?
I don't recall.
How does he have that?
So your testimony is, well, strike that. My client's arrest was pretty big in Massachusetts, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were aware that my client had been arrested, correct?
Yes, I had seen it on the news.
You were aware that she was being arraigned the very next day, were you not?
Yes.
This case involved your family, did it not?
How do you mean it?
Well, you knew that John O'Keefe was found dead on your brother-in-law, Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
So necessarily, your family was involved in this case, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
And knew that ultimately you'd probably be talked to by investigators from this case, correct?
I assume so, yes.
Didn't happen for 13 days, but then ultimately they did come, correct?
Yes.
So this case had to have been pretty big news within the Albert family, did it not?
Yes. Yes.
You were discussing it with your husband, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your other relatives, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your friends, correct?
I don't know about my friends, but yeah.
So is it your testimony that with all of this going on, you consider discussions about this case just to your specific family members?
Not necessarily.
No, I mean, clearly, you would have talked to Courtney Proctor about this, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. So before we end here, right, there's please do not just with anyone, don't do any independent research or investigation. Please disregard it and let us know. I'll see counsel with our other jurors. Thank you very much.
Jurors is closing your notebooks and leaving.
All right, that's it. That's it. Bear justice. Can I make this bigger? Oh, I can't read it all the way up there. Here's my notes. Number 1, thank you for helping me vet this idea. Without you helping me decide if this is good, if this is not good, if this is a great idea or another one of my ideas that goes nowhere. So here's my notes. Lally is a challenge because he comes in so quiet. I already mentioned that. The witnesses come in hot. The judge comes in hot. I only have so much software I can purchase. I really can't afford to purchase more software, more premium pro packages. Here's my point of the day where I tell you how much I hate CapCut Pro. It's a total waste of money. I wish I would have, and I'm handcuffed to it till September. Oh, David, you missed the cross. The cross starts. Oh, one thing I am going to mention. I did figure out how to do timestamps. So if you want to watch this, the two videos are already up on my YouTube channel. I put them up a couple hours ago. And then this live stream was to, number one, see your smiling faces. Number two, I wanted to vet it while other people were watching, hopefully. Number three, I'm trying to rebuild my Rumble channel because I had to start all over again. And they only had a half a day today, so they only had Christopher Albert and Julie Albert. And so there you have it. But yeah, they're up independently on my YouTube channel. Like I said, Christopher is better than hers was, but I wanted to hear for myself and see for myself if my efforts on the Christopher one were for naught, if you will, and they were way better. So I have some tweaking to do. This is only the third day I've tried this, but it is getting easier. It is a little fast. The ones I uploaded yesterday, I forgot to dial the speed down. So those you're going to want to listen to in 0.75 times speed. I I uploaded them because it was like 11 o'clock by the time I got done with the last one, and I was just too tired to vet them all. So if you do watch day 7's editing, they're not as good as Christopher's was today, but they are getting better. The gaps might be a little short. I got to figure out where the setting is. So when I say, okay, eliminate all the gaps, that it gives me a little bit more room in between. So I'm going to slow it down maybe a tenth of a speed for tomorrow, and see if I can't find the gap thing. And then I made a note to make sure to go through, and when they say like, may I approach, or Your Honor, may I have a minute, I'm going to take those out because I don't think that that's anything that's important. So I think if we get all the questions in and all the answers in full, I think that's good. The one thing I cannot do is edit the testimony and any video evidence, because the video evidence, if they're not speaking over it, will get chopped. So I got to figure out a good way to do that. There was, I think it was Michael, the second witness yesterday. Michael's last name starts with a C. His testimony had the video of them at the first bar walking in, and I tried my hardest to figure out like what's a good way to leave this intact but edit around it, and it took forever. So I think Bare Justice is mostly going to be the testimony cut down, and I'm going to have to upload the videos separately, like maybe put them like in the beginning. I don't know. Hope ain't fear. You'll learn as you go. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. Like I said, this is day 3. This is way better. You should see the first one I did. We'll actually go back a couple weeks and see that Sade Robinson one I did. That was like 6 minutes long. That took all day long, and it kind of sucked, but I'm way better. Yeah, Michael Camerano. That one yesterday, I'm like, okay, if we're going to be expeditious about watching the test, I mean, because the whole purpose of this is like just to get it down to the testimony so you don't miss it. And, you get rid of all the extra stuff. But I'm going to have to figure out the video thing. And it doesn't help that the stuff takes 1,000 years to upload onto YouTube. That's why I have 2 computers going now. I got my MacBook over here uploading. That one uploaded Julie's, and then my Windows computer, the Beast, uploaded Christopher's. So But anyway, hey, I've picked up a couple new subscribers too. Yeah, it does take forever. Well, and the software itself. So when you're done with editing, the software, you have to, export it. And then you've got to export it so that you've got the edited version saved. And then you have to after that, and that takes, depending on how long the video is, it could take a while. And this Windows computer, my sister's, let's just say common law husband, built it and gave it to me. And he does computers. He builds computers for like Fortune 100, Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies. So, I mean, this computer is great. And then I don't know what, I think it was like after Zachariah Anderson trial earlier in the year, I went and got a new modem. So, I mean, we're rocking and rolling now. But yeah, it does take a really long time to upload them. And I think that's why, I think when I did that Sade Robinson video, and I posted it on X or Twitter, and I'm like, how come it takes all day long to make like a 6-minute video? And it's so much harder than just like hitting the let's go live button. That's so much easier. But I really like this idea, and so I hope you like it too. We picked up, I think, 3 new subscribers today, so that's more than I've picked up in weeks. So I thank you. I appreciate you. A new modem means everything. Oh yeah. I got the beast of the modem too. And my computer is like direct link to it too, so we're not working on any kind of Wi-Fi here. I haven't had one problem with that. When I did that Zachariah Anderson trial over the Christmas holiday, I kept getting the spins. And then my sister's common law husband, Mark, sometimes he stops in here and says hello. If you see Mark, that's him. But he had given me like a special, I don't know if it was like IP. It wasn't an IP, but he gave me like, he hosts now my some type of connection. I don't know what it is, but never have a problem now with the computer at all. But that software, sometimes I'm like, what is it? And actually it's funny because CapCut, every time you turn it on, it'll say testing the environment. Oh yes, your computer can run CapCut smoothly. And I think another problem with them is like every 2-3 days there's an update. Update. And their web, you can't do it like on the web. You have to like actually put it on your computer. Actually, I have it on my MacBook too. And the iOS version is way better than the Windows one. That one doesn't hiccup as much as this Windows one does. Anyway, so now you know all my secrets. Oh. Yeah, so here we are. Bare Justice. Live streaming trial. No, I mean, it's like on a delay, but I think also I'm gonna, what does my thing say here? I gotta move the closed captioning over because I want to be able to fit in all the things. And I am gonna upload them per testimony, if that makes sense. Because if I have to, that's like yesterday, so day 7, there's 7 witnesses. And if I try to put them all together on one big long video, it takes forever. So if I'm doing it like one witness at a time, so as soon as the witness is done, I'm stopping the recording of it and I'm working on it, and then I'm going to get it uploaded. So then that way you should be able to get it like not horribly long. It depends on how long their testimony is, but you should be able to watch it faster versus me having to wait till the whole entire day is done and then edit it. I think that's going to be better. So we're trying things. So for those of you who are joining me, thank you again for the inaugural week of my new idea, Bare Justice. Testimony, live stream trial testimony, stripped down. I need to get some like funky music. Or like a zipper, like the opening, maybe some type of intro with like the zzzp, with a zipper down the middle of it, and then have this guy pop out. This guy here, like a cake, like he pops out. Doesn't he look like Schrader from Zachariah Anderson's trial, the judge, or Kyle Rittenhouse's trial? Bare Justice. Why back up your stream? What does that mean? David says, why can I not back up your stream? Oh, I don't know. But Julie's testimony, oh, you can't rewind? Huh. Julie's testimony and Christopher's testimony are independent on my channel. Plus, I'm almost done. Oh, David. Okay, I'm going to end it anyway. But Julie's testimony, like that's a totally separate video under the videos section. Actually, David is in my outro. And I'm tired and I'm starving. So I'm going to give you my outro. Do I have one? Do I have the new one? I do. All right, thank you for helping me out, people. I appreciate you. And thank you to the new subscribers. Well, David, you got to hold on 1 more minute. 1 minute because you're in the outro. All right, we'll see you soon, people.